Oh, we're live, ladies and gentlemen.
We are live. Guys, thanks everyone for giving us a second to get in here. We're trying to get things situated. First, before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone for all the birthday wishes out here. We got SDC, Justin Durs in here, Andres, we got Nicola, man, tons of Don. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for all the happy birthday wishes. And I see some of the channel members got their second month of membership. We got the great ball icons next to their name. Congrats on that, and thanks for staying around. I appreciate all you guys. Everyone, you should know who Eli is at PokemartUSA. If you don't, he's been on the channel at least once or twice. I've been on his channel a few times. For anyone who doesn't know Eli, I don't know how you don't, but I'll give Eli a couple seconds to kind of give an idea who he is and what he does. So take it away.
What's up, guys? So I'm Eli with PokemartUSA. In terms of what I do, most of my videos consist of just everything going on in the Pokemon market. I like to do a lot of investment talks. You know, sometimes it's your, casual top 5. Sometimes it's your deep dives on my predictions on what I think is going to happen, as well as giving you up-to-date information on any sort of news or rumors going on with just Pokemon reprints, resupplies, and all that kind of fun stuff. So just keep you up to date on the investor/financial side of things.
Leaf Green Goblin said you got the open mouth thumbnails on lock. I definitely get a few of those on my channel as well. But no, yeah, guys, Eli, I mean, he's got, he's set up with distribution. He actually owns a physical LGS location now. And so he's going to have a lot deeper grasp on the day-to-day, like, business side of, in this hobby than I am. I'm going to be more on, finding different plays or, definitely, sealed investing and stuff like that long-term. But Eli's a great guy to go to for all that. I mean, obviously the same stuff, but also kind of more that deeper, business fundamentals or what's actually happening with distributors, what's actually happening in the open market. So, I mean, Eli, obviously the thumbnail, the title, all that, what have you seen, especially with like your sales and store online? I mean, are we slowing down? Is this like the start of a bear market, or are things still pretty steady, business as usual?
I mean, here's what I would say is that from what I've noticed historically in my several years of running a business now, we're on year 3 of online, and then we're about 6-7 months into the LGS. From my just personal experience, things tend to slow down during summer. Like, people tend to be more outside. You don't see people locked up as much. And for that reason, my face is frozen. All right, are we good? Cool. And for that reason, you just tend to see a kind of decline in demand. Now, couple that with the new set release, which I've mentioned this before. When it comes to new set releases, typically they don't tend to perform as well, because unless you just got the new game and you like a lot of the cool new Pokemon, then you're not going to really enjoy the new sets. And most of the time when it comes to what people buy when it's Pokemon cards, it's something that gives them emotional sentiment of nostalgia. And when it's a new set, right, and there's new cards, you don't get that emotional nostalgia with it because there's not really that like connection to it. And for that reason, everyone comes in, sees Paldea Evolved, and even these art designs, which are gorgeous, which I love, and I think a lot of the new Pokemon cards are cool, people are still going to be like, oh, but I don't really care. I just want the Magikarp or the Tyranitar, because Magikarp and Tyranitar are OGs, right? And so you couple that with us going into the summer, it's going to make a lot of hysteria in the market, and people are going to make it feel as if it's really worse than it actually is. Sure, demand has gotten, like, I guess, overall slightly down, but at the end of the day, you're still seeing Evolving Skies is still well above $400. Brilliant Before the Small reprint was pushing $200. Like, we still got sets that are performing like crazy, and 151 pre-orders right now for the Ultra Premium Collection are still selling for over $200 a piece. So it's like there's demand in the market. It's just a natural adjustment, especially with the new MSRP prices, and people are going to have to get comfortable with that. But I think once we start going into the holidays and you start seeing 151 and some of these like really good sets come out, it's going to be a completely drastic shift in the market. for the online, but in big box retailers with MSRP increases, it might not feel that way because they're going to be flash selling the product because no one's going to want to buy at those prices when you can buy for so much cheaper online.
Yeah, I think I feel like, a lot of people get scared because anyone who was around during XY, everyone, kind of has those flashbacks how weak the market was and how boxes sat at certain prices for a long time. And then, people like to point to kind of the pandemic, Logan Paul, that to, quote unquote, the only reason the product rose. And so now they're seeing this and thinking, well, if we don't have another, Logan Paul craziness, this is going to be like XY, and we're going to see these prices at $90 a box or $95 a box for, 3-4 years and possibly longer. And so, I mean, you're definitely in a lot different path now than I am, running a store, having to have capital. I know you have a lot of people in your Patreon and in your wholesale program. So, I mean, are you still putting any of this stuff away, like for long term, whether with the new stuff, Scarlet Violet, Paldea, or are you just trying to, rinse and repeat? You're throwing capital back in the business, selling everything you can to get inventory for the next set, trying to get your allocations up. Are you kind of doing a hybrid? Where are you at with like the investing side these days?
It's funny because I always tell myself that I want to be extremely liquid, but then every single time I get paid, I look at my bank account, I'm like, where's all my money? And it's because I'm constantly reinvesting, whether it be in increasing quality or growing my social exposure or investing in more product or supplies, whatever it is. So for me, it's one of those things where I try to be as liquid as I can, but I'm just constantly leveraging myself. It'll be one of these things where I'll have my credit card and I will have, let's say, a $40,000 credit limit. And I'll straight up be like, all right, finally paid it all off. And I now have $10,000 in the bank. And then I'll get a call from my rep and it'll be like, hey, Eli, I got some products you need to pick up. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. But it's part of the grind because for me, the most important thing is building up continuous allocation numbers, because at the end of the day, the more I can leverage myself, we're now the 4th biggest account for Southern when it comes to ordering Pokemon product with this last set is what my rep told me. So we straight up are crushing it. And I was asking him too, because I was like, dang, really? We're that big? I was like, how big are the guys above us, top 3? He's like, oh yeah, they're multi-million-dollar accounts. You're not even close to them. But it's still really cool that we got as much as we did because we got 720 booster boxes just from Southern. And I was stoked. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. So it's kind of surreal in that regard. So I'm constantly just, trying to just play the churning game. But I'd definitely be lying if I said I don't always at least set aside a booster box case or 2 with every new set release, an elite trainer box case or 2, and then also just specialty sets that I think are going to do well. So if you literally look at what I'm sitting on right now, it's literally a mix between a bunch of different items of Crown Zenith, couple of different ETB cases, and then a couple of different booster box cases is what I'm sitting on right now. But just depends on the opportunities, and I feel like there's so many different opportunities. Oh, and a couple of cases of UPCs, obviously. But
absolutely,
I have to.
You're kind of like a hybrid. So a lot of guys, guys like Cash 'em All Collectibles, guys like old school Pokemon, and I could go, I could go on and on with names, right? But a lot of people who do this full time, they really focus on the singles and grading. So you who's now full time in this hobby. Is that really much of your business? Are you focusing a lot on sourcing singles and grading and kind of realizing your gains that way? Are you really focusing on the sealed products? I had Brian from PokemartUSA on here, and he won't even touch singles. He's 100% sealed product. It's all he does. And so I'm anxious to kind of hear where you are these days. Are you even messing with singles? Are you? Especially now that you're the fourth highest allocation with Southern Hobby. That's pretty big time. So are you at the point now where it's just you're going to make your money off sealed product? Kind of where are you at?
So I want to preface by saying this: when it comes to sealed product compared to singles, I know there's a ton of money to be made in singles. I know there's a market for it. I know there's a ton of money. But for me personally, the reason why right now I'm not in it is because I'm just so focused on what I'm doing and the amount of time I'm investing and energy I'm investing into it, that for me to try and go into singles, I would have to like really understand the market on a deeper level and stay up to date on things a lot more intense, because there's such a higher risk side. Like there's a huge reward side for it, right? Because if you have a card, for example, that's like $5-10, if it goes to like $10-20, then you just 2x your money, and it seems like a small amount, but in reality, like for the specific move. But if you bought 1,000 of that card, you just made $1,000, right? And for that reason, it's fantastic. But at the end of the day, if certain cards don't pop off, if you're not able to get certain cards that you're able to flip below market, or you're not, calculated when it comes to your overall cards you want to send in for grading, you could get burnt real bad. Versus for me, when it comes to sealed product, look, I already know with sealed product what floors are, because it's slightly below wholesale, historically speaking. When it came to the Sword and Shield era, $85-86 was the wholesale price, and the lowest we saw was $75. We're now looking at $95.50, $96 as the new like kind of average wholesale price, and we're talking probably just once again lowering the bar down to $85 is a potential future that we could see booster boxes get to as low as we progress throughout the hobby. So for me, I like know my floors, versus I go take a Pokemon card that's super hot in the moment. It's entirely possible where if I decide to sit on it, that item could just crash out of nowhere and I could just be out of my ass. Versus, hey, I'm getting in at wholesale prices. I know that it can't go that much lower. And so I just feel like it's a lot more conservative, on top of the fact that it's deflationary, because the more sealed product that's open, the less supply there is, versus the more sealed product that's open, the more singles there are. So, that's how I look at it. But, it's obviously different in terms of how old the product is. You're going to see that as less of a concern. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because the market's going to do what the market's going to do. So there's money in it. It's something that I've definitely looked into, and in the future, maybe it's something I'll get into if I, have time. But with my business model and what I'm doing, it just works for me. And I just don't see the point of switching it up as of right now, unless there's an opportunity that stares me in the face with a lot lower risk.
What about like the mass box openings for like, singles? You sell the singles pre-release, I'm guessing, like TCG Player and stuff, or like how does that go for you?
So that, I would say, is definitely a little bit different, just based on the fact of the matter that you just get such a premium for pre-release cards, and also pre-release sealed too. Like, it might not sound like a lot, but right now, if you go and sell Obsidian on TCG Player, you can sell it for like $130 on pre-sale right now, which I think after like shipping and fees, it's probably going to be like $10 a case, which is not a lot in a lot of people's minds, but like that's for the game of booster boxes. If you're getting 10 to 20%, you're happy. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, cool, I know I'm going to make margin on this item specifically. Or you can play the risk of hoping that the singles market is going to stay inflated and you're going to get the right pulls, which it's interesting because it's never guaranteed, right? Like we like to think that just pre-sale prices are always going to be higher. But as we saw with like the Magikarp, I think Magikarp pre-sale prices at the highest were like $30. And then it dropped on like the day of down to like $15-20 and then shot all the way up to as high as $80-90. So there's no guarantee like prices are going to be the best on pre-sale. So there's always a calculated risk when it comes to that. For me personally, my favorite items to open in terms of releases, if I'm being completely honest, it's usually build and battles, because you have such a premium for the promos, because they're usually like, especially with the recent era, like you talk about premium prices for the Sword and Shield era promos, they're usually like maybe at highest like a couple of bucks. But Scarlet and Violet promos on pre-sale were going upwards of $40. And after pre-sale, like when they became active, they were still going for like $5 to $7. And I did the math. And at one point, like after I sold all the bulk that came with it, my average entry price per pack was $1.80. So for me, it's like, it just feels like it's a lot crazier to do that and get free tendies, wait 2 weeks after release, than it is for me to try and just open a bunch of booster boxes and hope that I'm going to make better margins than $10 if I had sold it on pre-sale several months in advance. It's a tricky game you got to play, right? But that's just, I mean, that's Pokemon singles for you.
Yeah, one of the things I always think super interesting is which cards find their way to the top of the value in each set. Like, I get, like, the sets come out first in Japan, and so everyone kind of has an idea of, like, what's going to be the hits in the set. But what about the sets in Japan when they get released? It's funny to see which cards end up getting pushed to the top, because it's sometimes it's not the cards you think. Like, it's certainly not the cards Pokemon Company, I don't think, wants to be. Like, if you look back at, like, Sun and Moon, when they started coming out with, like, the rainbows and, like, the gold secret rares, it's like they intended those to be the hits, right? But now we're seeing just, like, regular full art colored trainers, make it to the top of the list, or other cards. And, it's really going to be interesting to see what cards end up finding their way to the top of the value list in each set, because I try to, but it's hard to, like, kind of see the future and figure out which ones are going to be there. I mean, you can do a good job. That's what the knowledge comes in, understanding we're in the waifu craze, obviously understanding, like, the popular Pokemon and which have the following. But I don't know. What are your kind of thoughts on that? Like, of trying to figure out what's going to be valuable in the future based on, where they're at now? Because I watched a lot of Sun and Moon sets, and especially in the last year or two, a lot of cards changed places quite a bit. What's your thoughts on that? Like, do you think Scarlet Violet and Sword and Shield are going to see, like, things switch around? Do you think everything's going to be pretty set in stone? How do you see that kind of performing?
I would say that going back to Astral Radiance is when I feel like we saw a real big shift in the market, where it really felt as if art design started to become relevant. I remember when the Machamp came out, like, I think Machamp's a cool Pokemon, but for me, it was never something I was like, oh, wow, this card should be worth $150+, right? Which obviously it's come down since its first original high, but that card was worth $30 to $40 on pre-sale, and then a week and a half after pre-sale, it just skyrocketed up because, the design of the card itself. And I remember hearing people tell me, like, Eli, do you think it's market manipulation? Do you think it's not market manipulation? And at first, if I'm being honest, like, I very much was like, yeah, this is market manipulation. This is not going anywhere. But the card is held strong. And since then, time and time again, with most sets, there's usually an art design that people fall in love with, and the card itself does well. Obviously, with Lost Origin, there was one that I called from the get-go, and I wouldn't shut up about it. It was the Aerodactyl. Like, that was by far, like, I'm not an Aerodactyl fan, but the art design was so gorgeous. And I remember saying that this card is fantastic. And it was, like, pre-selling for like $40-$50, and it did the exact same thing that Machamp did. It went all the way up to 150. I think it's like 110, 120 now again. So for me, I think it's just going to be a lot of these card art designs that we're going to come out, and initially they're going to pre-sell at a certain price. But once the majority of people start getting it in their hands, and we start to see, like, the appreciation of the art as well as the rarity of the card and how hard it is to pull, is when you really start to see the value. Because, the Magikarp being a character rare, everyone thinks it's a lot easier to pull than an SIR. But as we learned, both on my stream where I opened 1,000 packs of Paldea and we didn't pull it, and seeing the numbers of what TCG Player did, where they had 8,000 packs and they pulled it in one in every 480 packs, you realize that these amazing art designs, along with the scarcity, they're going to do well. You just have to know what's going to be the next thing. So it wouldn't surprise me within a set or two, we're going to see some card that's going to skyrocket up in value, and it's going to be either a great art design or it's going to be a waifu that's initially going to be undervalued, as the history is starting to show for us.
So you manipulated the market on the Aerodactyl is what you were saying?
That's exactly what I was saying. Me and my, at the time, probably like 4,000 followers, I told them all to go buy it, and everyone listened, and we coordinated buy to the best. No, yeah.
I'm getting accused of that with the XY cards, right?
Oh, really? Wait,
yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Just, I don't know. Apparently, because I talked about the XY cards in a couple of videos, prices of some of them have shot up. And so now me and my, 40, whatever, 100 people that watch my channel manipulated the whole entire XY market, apparently. Don't know.
Sounds like you. I mean, I believe it.
If we really want to get some drama started, though, I think there's a question that we might need to answer.
Oh God, no.
Thoughts on Cosmic Clip Booster Box confirmed by PTCG Radio. You got any thoughts on that, Eli?
You guys are baiting me so hard right now, and you just want it to spread like wildfire. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are I will believe it when I see it, and I think just should leave it at that, honestly, because you know, I don't believe that's gonna happen, but you know, I could be wrong. So we'll just have to see. Only time will tell with that one.
Yeah, obviously, if anyone knew, it'd be Eli having his fourth ranked seller account at Southern Hobby. So if he doesn't,
all right, you gotta blow that much smoke up my butt. Okay, all right. Now I feel pompous by saying that. I should have never said that. I was a little excited. I thought it was cool, and now I feel like a jerk saying it.
Nah, not at all. No, I mean, no, it's the truth though. It's like if anyone knew what was coming down the pipe, I mean, I think you would have got offered or at least knew something like that was coming to put it in order. So yeah, I don't know where some of these guys get their info, or if it's, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate if it's for views or clicks or whatever. I don't know, but I just feel like other people that have distribution would have heard something as well. So
did you
nothing as of yet?
Did you watch my live at all yesterday?
Some of it, not all.
Did you watch? So at the very end, did you watch the very end as we wrapped up the stream?
No.
I was like telling people it was like your birthday, and I like purchased one of your shirts on your website as like a happy birthday, and I accidentally clicked checkout with a financing, and so like I financed your $25 shirt because 20 plus the $4 shipping or whatever, and people were giving me so much crap about it, and I just saw some people were talking about it in the chat. So I
didn't even know you could do that. What? Oh, through like the PayPal?
Through PayPal, yeah, I saw that. I checked my account too. It said I was financing it for 6 months.
What is it like? Is it free?
It's like, yeah, it's 0% interest. So I have to finance it for the next like 6 months, and as long as I make the $4 payments on time, then.
Oh man. What happens with that is if you don't, we send someone and repo the shirt.
Hey, shout out to Don. He did donate $5 for the mistake. Oh my god.
That's so funny, man. I didn't know that. That's so great. I appreciate the purchase for the B-Day.
You know, I had to do it, man.
What's the Pokemart merchandise?
You know, people have been asking about it. I would love to do that, but if I do my merchandise, I want to put like a ton of thought into it, and I want to make it really cool, unique shirts. And it's one of those things where I know like I don't want to just half-ass it out the gate, and I'm so busy all the time. For me, I'm like, all right, if I do this, I want to make sure I do it right, because I have some really cool ideas for what I think we could do with PokemartUSA shirts, especially if we do like slogans, because you know how I am. Like I say a lot of the same things when it comes to my sayings, like I don't have a crystal ball, this is not financial advice, like stuff like that, where you could easily put that on a shirt.
Yo, thanks to, sorry not to cut you off, but thanks to PokeFlips, all the people joining us from PokeFlips podcast. I just got the notification. I guess they sent them over here. I appreciate it, Dan and Nick. Thanks for sending over everyone that was at your channel. Welcome, everyone. We're just having some good old-fashioned Pokemon talk. But yeah, that's pretty funny, man. I can always send you the guy that did the artwork for my shirt. I found him on Fiverr. He's in the US and reasonable. I mean, basically just tell him what you want on the shirt and he'll design it from scratch. I mean, pretty good artist, so something to think about.
Hey, I'm always down. Just definitely give me his info after stream.
Don's in here gifting memberships. Okay, so one thing I did want to talk about a little bit is long term, right? I mean, obviously you're in the churn and burn business, you know, pretty free time or full time now, but I mean, long term, there's a lot of debate right now about, you know, other hobbies, you know, Pokemon's, you know, kind of turned the corner. It's now the heat's really dying down from like the excess from the boom. And like you said, the market's normalizing with box prices, you know, not being insane out of the gate. And so, I mean, where are you at? I mean, are you still pretty much long-term believer in this stuff? Like 5, 10 plus years down the road, are you just kind of taking it day to day, just running your business and trying to, kind of make a profit and then kind of, maybe put some away for the future? Or are you pretty bullish on the future? Where are you at? I mean, everyone kind of knows where I'm at, but I'm anxious to hear where you're at.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Like, I'm in the business for a reason. I believe in it long term. PokemartUSA isn't Pokemon without, I can't be PokemartUSA without Pokemon. So it's like, I'm a huge fan of it long term. And, for me, it's like with any market, right? It's going to have its bullish markets and it's going to have its bearish times. And so at the end of the day, you just take advantage of the downturns and you double down. I mean, like, if you look at Rudy, for example, and why he became extremely popular, it was because he doubled down during the XY era and threw stuff in his bathroom. And he said, nope, I believe in this. This is going to do well long term. I believe in the IP. I believe in the brand. And it paid off for him, right? And since then, we've just had nothing but, green grass and blue skies. And so everyone just comes in and is like, dang, all of a sudden things are going to go down. This is the end for Pokemon. Never going to see it again. But that was a lot of the sentiment that I feel like was happening in the market after evolutions, because so much negativity like came into the market shortly thereafter with the Sun and Moon era initially out the gate. And it's just going to be the same old story where it's just you're going to have your up times and you're going to have your down times. And you just got to know to ride it out and just play the waves. And for me personally, since I'm in it for the long haul, I just see this as history once again repeating itself as it always has.
Pokemon dies, we all die. Pokemon Gym Hero says. Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is, if anyone's paying attention to TCG Player today, they're running like an 8% off sale. You get it back in store credit, and then if you sign up for the membership, it's like an extra 4 to 6% or so, 4 to 7% extra, depending on the item. And if anyone's like just wondering how strong that's doing, just go look at like Scarlet Violet Base and Paldea boxes and cases. They are selling like wildfire. I mean, this morning I checked it and there was already like 30 or something like Paldea cases sold. I mean, so it kind of brings me back to the point I always talk about is at a certain price, all this stuff, people are going to buy it. And yeah, no, people are kind of leaving it right now, holding their money for 151 and Obsidian Flames. But as soon as they can get these boxes for in like the low 90s or high 80s, everyone's jumping all over it. And that should give you a pretty good idea of, because it's not enough to like flip it, right? I mean, if you're only getting 8 to 10% off, you can't flip it. So people aren't buying things to flip them. They're either buying them to open for their collection or to invest in. And if you're buying cases, most time it's to invest in. I don't know too many people buying cases to rip. So I think that's a pretty bullish factor. It's pretty strong. Just goes to show that, there's no official floor for product, right? Like everything can go to quote unquote zero, but I feel like everything in Pokemon at least has a certain price that anyone's gonna, like most people are gonna pay for it. Like if a card or a slab gets to a certain low price, there's enough people that are gonna buy it just to have it. If boxes get to a certain price, even Steam Siege, Crimson Invasion, it doesn't matter. There's a price that I would open up those boxes right now for. And I think that gets overlooked a lot by, just because, prices aren't moving up or things aren't selling at retail or the price people want them to sell at. There's going to be a price point that fits everyone's budget at every step of the way. And so, when in a year from now, there'll be a different price point, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, there's always going to be a price where the market says, I'm willing to pay that. And the supply available is whatever it is. And as the supply dwindles, there'll be more and more people are willing to pay because they're going to see less and less available. And I think we're at the time where there's just so much to choose from and all these different hobbies. There's a lot of product available. And at the price points right now, people are just saying, I'll leave it. So, I mean, I don't know. Are you seeing that more as a bullish factor? Are you kind of seeing, well, I think Pokemon's just slowing down a bit?
I mean, it's just like with everything, it's just going to mature over time and prices are going to go up because of scarcity. Just kind of going back to what's happening with the Sun and Moon era and how you've just seen a lot of these cards, such as, Tag Team and going with Unbroken. I mean, Cosmic Eclipse, for example. Like, I remember last time I checked Cosmic Eclipse packs, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and prices were $12. and now they're selling for like $16 actively right now. Some of them are selling for as high as $20 a piece if you look at the most recently listed sales as of today. So like, it's just one of those things where we're going to look back and we're going to say to ourselves, as most people do over time, man, I should have got in when it was at this price, right? And so I look at this as just a factor for people to take advantage of the opportunity of that, 10% cash back that they're going to be able to buy today. And you're going to see a run up on a lot of these older cards or older sealed products, sorry. And you're going to start to see a little bit more supply dwindling and prices go up as people are going to get their cash back on them. So
speaking of
I'm
sealed
bullish
product,
overall, baby.
Speaking of sealed product, have you guys talked about the ring pull? We haven't. Let's talk about that. The ring has been pulled. Where is Magic Lord of the Rings collector boxes going from here?
They're at 370, I think, right now on TCG Player. And like, what's interesting is if you look at the EV value on it right now, obviously, we'll see what's going to happen in the next week or two. It's still roughly around $540, I think, is last time I checked. I'll have to pull up my numbers. But in terms of the overall value that you still get from opening it up sealed, like it's still there. It's at 560 right now. That's the EV on it. So, I mean, if you're picking it up for this price, obviously, like I said, we'll see what happens in the next week or two. There's still an opportunity for you to get your money back on a lot of these collector items. Because the thing I don't think a lot of people realize is, sure, there's the one ring and the value of that has crashed because of it. But there's also still quite a bit of other rings that are serialized cards that are going for anywhere between several $1,000s, upwards of $10,000+ if you pull like an Elven ring, right? So I think that there are still items that are going to do well long term. It was just a lot of hype built around when's the ring going to be pulled, right? And now that it's officially done that, it's just seeing hysteria happen. And it's kind of crazy to me too that I don't know because I don't know the exact details of if someone sent it into PSA or PSA pulled it. But the fact of the matter got a 9 is such a tease. Like, that's so crazy to me that they couldn't have at least given an auto 10 for a 1 of 1. I think that's kind of wild to me. But anyway, I think that they're still going to do well long term, but I look at it as an opportunity for you to potentially pick up some of these collector items, because at the end of the day, there's a reason why Pokemon channels like ourselves are talking about this right now, because the overall IP and the power of what Lord of the Rings is and the concept of the serialized card is extremely popular right now. And I don't think that's just going to die down because the ring is pulled, right? The set itself is still a really cool set.
Yeah. So I was at my card shop, my local card shop, and I have a very fair card shop. Like, to give you like ideas, they still have Paldea and Scarlet base in their store right now for $97.99 a box. And if you buy a case, they usually take $1 or $2 off. So like, they're really fair with their prices. And like, they still have a bunch of Sword and Shield boxes, which are in line with what they're going for online. They don't they're not a store that like really, tries to hose you if you go in person. But they had those collector boxes listed at $500. And I asked him, I said, why are they so high? He said, because they're selling. Said they're still selling every day. People come in and buy them. He goes, why would I lower them? I'm like, I get it. And so, yeah, I have no idea what they're going to follow, but people were just buying these things left and right at $500. And so, I don't know where it's going to fall. I mean, one side of me, like you said, there are a few other rings in there. And then also, it's almost like a nostalgia thing at this point, like just remembering it. I think people may just want one of a sealed box of it, just kind of have in their collection, just to kind of remember this time in history. So, I mean, I think it actually, I know it's going to have some sort of crash, but I honestly think it could be okay, like long term, just for people wanting to go back and like have that sealed box. And then, like you said, if all the other serialized rings don't get pulled, which I'm sure they're not all going to get pulled, like every single one of them. And so there'll always be some sort of value in those boxes, I think, long term. I mean, that's just what I feel about it. I'm no Magic expert. I have no clue how that hobby operates, or if they're really worried about that kind of collector level, or if they're just all about the card, playing, like a lot of people say. I think there's a lot more collectors in that hobby than people lead on to. It's not all about the playability like it used to be, but that could just be me as an outsider looking in.
So right now, obviously, I know there's going to be another print, so I don't know how that's going to change these numbers, or if they released the first half of these and the second half are going to come. So someone will have to obviously correct me on this. But as we know of so far, there's 300 Elven Soul Rings, and right now they're selling anywhere between $7,000 to $10,000. You've got 700 Dwarven Soul Rings, which are selling for anywhere between $2,600 to $4,000. And then you've got 900 Human Soul Rings, which are selling for anywhere between $1,800 to $2,500. And that's the holographic or the foil versions, right? And then you have the non-foil versions. There's 3,000. So, I mean, literally just take the numbers I just did and just multiply it by 10 of the Elvens that are going for 600. The Dwarvens are going for 230, and the Humans are going for 200. So, like, there are still a ton of chase cards that are available. And as we know with sealed product, at the end of the day, it's something, like you said, that people like to display and people like to collect. And for me personally, like, I literally was talking to my dad about this not too long ago, because he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And like, I want to buy a collector box as a gift for him, just because it's something where he doesn't really care about trading cards, but he loves Lord of the Rings. And so for him to have something like this that's extremely unique, it's like something that you can get a lot of like people that aren't in the hobby interested in.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of bigger than the whole thing. I mean, Lord of the Rings is a huge franchise. I get that. Hey, I guess a lot of people have been coming in, after the fact. So thank you so much for all the birthday wishes. Everyone wished me happy birthday. It was yesterday. Really appreciate it. Also, Eli, we're having tons of people asking about the TCG radio. I mean, I'm sure you're following the chat. So we already talked about it. Eli basically told us he doesn't have any news hit on his end from any of his distributors on Cosmic Eclipse. Believe it when we see it type thing. Evolving Skies, believe it when we see it. Nothing in the pipeline. Everything is rumors, but hey, rumors get clicks.
Yeah, everyone keeps wanting me to throw daggers just based off of how yesterday's stream is. And like I said this before, guys, I'll say it again. You can construe my words however you want to construe. I'm not here to start drama. I'm just here to say, hey, I'll believe it when I see it. And historically speaking, I haven't been able to see it. So if Cosmic,
I thought you were here to start drama.
That's you know what? That you're right. I am on Nostalgianomics channel. I forgot that's what you guys are about here. Well, now that you mentioned it, no, I'm just kidding. All right.
That's what we're about here. Jeez. I gotta do some serious PR work with my channel.
Nah, dude, you do what's working, baby. That's what you do. But yeah, right.
Yeah, some people are saying you should have just paid to get authenticated. I'm kind of like that with the One Ring too. It's like, I mean, all it needed to be was authenticated. I mean, the grade's irrelevant. It's almost like that. What is it, like the Tyler the Great Warrior in Yu-Gi-Oh that sold? I mean, it was a 7, but who cares? It's a 1 of 1. I mean, I think the grades, I'm with you. It makes sense. They should have just made sure it's perfect when they cut it. I mean, just made sure that one card is perfect. But I mean, so I don't get having a 9, but it's like the grade I feel like is irrelevant with that card.
Yes and no. Like, it's irrelevant, but still, for just the aesthetics of it all, it feels like such a tease being like 9 when they can do an auto 10. It's not like they don't do auto 10s on a regular basis. So it's definitely something that's kind of crazy to me. Not to mention too, I don't know who pulled the card. I think if I pulled the card, I wouldn't have said anything about it. I think I would have announced it, just kind of like what I talked about on my other stream on Tuesday. You really control the market if you own that card and no one knows that you pulled it, because of the fact that you're able to see the prices continue to go up. And if you can control the prices of what sealed is, then it's like, not only do you get your 2 million, but you also know that at any point you could just crash the market. And that's something that is extremely valuable to like, it's crazy to think that you literally can manipulate the market by making an announcement. Like, I don't know. And just to do that and then announce it with a 9, that just salt in the wound, I feel like.
Your average player has the best idea I've heard. He should have taken it to Australia and thrown it in the volcano. Let Mr. Beast make a video on it and pay you. I feel like Mr. Beast could have came up with just as much money instead of selling it to one of these stores with these bounties and you could have made this whole Lord of the Rings video, making the trip over however many weeks and getting it up there and throwing it in a volcano. I think that'd be great. That's where we should have went with this.
I know. I mean, if you do buy it, or not buy it, well, if you buy the product that pulls it, there's so many options that you could take at that point, right? Like, obviously, it's funny because immediately we jump to 2 million and we think how like expensive that is. But realistically speaking, for a collector's item like this, there's so much that could be done with it. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I wouldn't be surprised if a Mr. Beast video like that happened. I mean, oh my gosh. There's so much that could be done. I mean, to be fair, the card is still available. It's not like this can't be done, right? It's not like it's been, I mean, to my knowledge, it hasn't been sold yet. So we'll see.
So I literally, I've been busy today, but like I was driving home and I clicked into Catch 'em All Collectibles and Old School Pokemon's podcast, Poke Flips. And I literally get in there at the exact time Nick was talking, and he was saying, he was talking about his eBay lives and what was selling. And he's like, Modern is just outselling vintage, 10-1, and how, he's basically coming around to the fact that, kind of accepting that Modern is taking the place of vintage and how much better it is. And so I threw a couple comments, and he's like, yeah, you're bringing me over to your side. And then we also had that Z&G Emporium video where Z always just kind of, he plays, he kind of plays it off like in his TikToks or in this. And he never really gives a straightforward answer, but he was kind of alluding to, well, hey, he's auctioning off all of his vintage slabs of his own. And he, kind of alluding to that, kind of vintage is dying and stuff. And so it's really interesting to see. It's kind of like I know you've kind of said things about Modern, but like I've definitely been a big proponent of that for the past, 2 years. I've been back. And I mean, even before that, I was feeling that way. And so what do you think? I mean, are we truly in like this crazy scenario where Modern is going to take over the hobby and kind of into the future be the main collectible because this is where the majority of the hobby got in? Or are you kind of in the camp of eventually, we don't know when, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, it's going to follow other collectibles, and people are going to make their way back to the oldest and rarest stuff, kind of like the SM Pratt older, rarer, minter, better phrases. Because I think we're starting to see a big shift, even from like the most like old school lovers out there, like people who are staunch vintage fans are really starting to come around to see like the value in Modern and kind of the positive path forward for Modern. So what are you seeing with all that? I'm interested to hear.
Well, I think I want to make sure that, at least from my opinion, that I don't think it's dead by any means, right? I think that's very hyperbolic when talking about what is the state of vintage right now. Do I think it's in a little bit of a slump? Yes. If you watch a lot of SM Pratt's videos, when he was talking about, because I literally have watched, I'm not even kidding you, like almost every single one of his videos. During COVID, I just went through and I binged watched all his videos because he is like a source of knowledge. And for me, one of the biggest things that I noticed from his videos were he always talked about like the opportunity to invest in cards that were first ed, shadowless, unlimited. And if you look back at the time, the prices he was quoting that you could buy it for were ridiculously cheap, like ridiculously cheap by today's standard. And so I think you've got a lot of different factors. I think number one, you have the factor of the prices. You've just started to outprice a bunch of people. And the only reason why, to begin with, a lot of people were able to afford these things, after the fact, and kept the kind of mania of price pumping up as much as you could, is because everyone was getting their stimulus checks. Everyone was getting their, $600 to $900 a week from the government while they're at home. They're not spending time taking vacations with the family anymore, or if they're single, just traveling at all because everything's closed. And so for that reason, you just had a bunch of demand that was pumped into the market. And now that stimulation has started to go away because you just don't have that kind of money anymore. Prices are drastically more unaffordable. You're starting to see a lot of that bleed out of the market. And Do I think that in the long term vintage will still do really well? Yeah, of course. I mean, you're going to have a scalable demand over time. But at the end of the day, right now, it's just drastically more affordable to go in and collect sealed and or buy sealed product and open sealed product right now, especially as we're potentially going to be going into a recessionary period, or depending upon your opinion on what is defined as a recession, we're in it right now. And for that reason, I think that as per with all things, there's going to be an equilibrium point of demand for vintage, and we're just going to have to wait for when that point gets hit, and then it'll be seen as a really good buying opportunity, and we'll be just playing the same old game 5-10 years in the future. We'll be like, man, remember when after the boom of COVID, prices went down 50, 60, 70% of these items, and we thought they were dead, and then all of a sudden it's now an amazing opportunity again. It's just, once again, just history continuing to repeat itself. But I'm a fan right now of just modern because there's so much. But I'll tell you what, if these Diamond and Pearl booster boxes, let's say they start diving, or a lot of the level X's start diving, you bet I'll be one of the first people to pick them up, because I'm still a fan. I just am not a fan of these prices.
Yeah, so that kind of is like I asked I had Steve on here on my last live, and I asked him the same question. So I'll ask you. So you were a Diamond and Pearl kid, right? Like that was your bread and butter. Okay. So I'm going to ask you kind of the same question and kind of put you on the spot. So, I think a lot with vintage is before it got pumped, because that's what everyone was talking about. Every YouTuber pumped it. Scott pumped it. Everyone was talking about the vintage, and that was what got pumped during the boom. And now everyone kind of had a chance to enjoy the hobby and figure out what they actually like. And so here's like my thing is like, I actually like a lot of these modern cards, the artwork's a lot more. And so I think definitely 100% there's cards in vintage and mid-era and all of that are going to do well, like long term, right? Like there's just beautiful cards, stored to the hobby wherever they are. But I just don't feel it's going to be a blanket statement like it used to be, and everything's going to move. And so, like, my question is like, think to your favorite Diamond and Pearl sets, right? Think to some of like just the regular level X's, or like the regular hollows that aren't really popular Pokemon. You don't really care that much. Would you really take those cards, even though they're much more rare, scarce, they have a lower pop report, whatever it may be? Would you still take those cards over some of your favorite cards in modern as a 10 if the price was exactly the same? Because with me, if I look back, like, no, I would not go buy a Jungle Kangaskhan PSA 10 first edition over some modern cards at the same price. Like, I just wouldn't, I look back at that so often now. If we're talking about like certain Pokemon, like Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, if we're talking about like a Jolteon or a Dragonite from Fossil, like, of course I would. But when you start diving down like a Muck, like, do I really care about having a first edition PSA 10 Muck? And you start kind of diving down to the less popular cards in Pokemon, I start veering towards, well, I'd rather have this modern sealed box. Like, I'd rather have a Phantom Forces sealed box than pay $2,000 for one of these old PSA 10 cards. Or I'd rather have, a silver Dialga in a 10 than go back and buy one of these vintage cards at a 10. So where are you at in those perspectives? Would you always just be drawn back to Diamond and Pearl, or are you kind of coming around to more of the modern too?
I think for me that at the end of the day, if hypothetically the prices for a lot of my like childhood cards were identical, then I would still choose them over modern. And it has nothing to do with the art designs, because if I'm being honest, Level X designs and the Diamond and Pearl era, like in terms of a lot of the art designs for the first half of the generation, were atrocious. Like base set, I've made videos on talking about like the worst sets of all time, and I think I put number 3 for Diamond and Pearl as like the third worst set of all time behind Steam Siege and Crimson Invasion. And like, that's me being unbiased. Now, biasedly, it's one of my favorite sets of all time, but that's just because of the nostalgic ties that I have to it. So for me, at the end of the day, although there's definitely no argument that like ultra modern cards nowadays have better art designs, that doesn't change the general emotional sentiment that I have with it. And for that reason, I'm just going to prefer it over what that is, regardless of the price, right?
So obviously, if it was like Pokemon you don't normally like really care about, just because it's that era, you're just okay.
My current goal right now is to collect every single card in a reverse holo, Level X in a PSA 10 condition, which that sounds like a crazy goal to achieve, but that's the goal I want. And if you literally look at like the slabs in the backdrop, they're just a bunch of miscellaneous hollows and reverse hollow cards that I've just sent in for grading off of cards that I've pulled. Because for me, it is something that I have such a resonation with, like, or I resonate with so deeply just because of how much just emotional ties. And it makes me feel like a kid in a way in which new art designs can't. Like, I can appreciate the new art designs, right? And I can appreciate the new, Pokemon within them. But for me, it's one of those things where I don't have memories that are tied to that. And for that reason, I just appreciate the cards much more on a deeper level, because when I look at a certain card, or when I have a certain card, or when I think about a certain card, it takes me back to when I was a kid. And that's a feeling that I can't get with Ultra Modern. And
But
so,
here,
yeah.
hold on, that point right there, though. So where does that leave the future, though, if the biggest portion of this hobby's, boom came during like XY Sun and Moon Sword and Shield? Does that mean those kids are never going to have any type of, feeling for anything before that? And they're never going to go back to anything else but when they got in, or, what they kind of grew up with their friends trading and enjoying?
For me, how I look at it is this. Obviously, my goal is an extremely specific goal. So I'm, not the rule here. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact of the matter that I will still find appreciation for other sets based off of the Pokemon that I like. But that doesn't mean that I still don't prefer one over another, right? Like, as we both have discussed, my 3 favorite Pokemon, my favorite pseudo legendary is Garchomp, my favorite mythical is Darkrai, and my favorite legendary is Giratina, right? And so for me, I obviously bought the promo card of the alternate art version of the Garchomp Giratina. I have the rainbow in a 10 as well for the Garchomp Giratina. I like to collect Garchomp and Giratina cards just because I'm a huge fan, right? That doesn't change for me, though. At the end of the day, that's still my favorite Garchomp and Giratina cards are the ones in the Diamond and Pearl era, and I still collect those that are newer, ultra modern, because I still appreciate them, right? And so that's the thing. There's still going to be cards that I'm going to collect outside of what I resonate emotionally with, because I still like the characters. I still sentimentally resonate with the characters, just not on the same deeper level as I do with the ones I collected when I was a kid.
Yeah, like, I love this one. Retrospects. Vintage is Nas, modern is Drake. Nas may be a better lyricist, but Drake outsells. Another thing I wanted to highlight is this is like the go-to like thought process that goes through anyone when they're investing is, I think vintage is absolutely in a slump, but wouldn't that make it a good time to scoop it up? Just another EBB and flow. So that's kind of like the thought process everyone goes through is, well, when things are down, that's obviously the time to scoop it up. And yeah, obviously that's like, the baseline rule of investing is invest in things when they're not hot, when, people are down on them, and you want to sell into the hype. And yeah, I mean, if you believe in this stuff, like if you believe that's going to be a long-term good performer, that's one thing. If you're just wanting to collect it, now's a great time to collect it, because it's, I don't think they're going to keep going down. Like, I don't think it's dead. I don't think we're going to see like pre-boom prices. I think we found the new kind of plateau. We found a lower high now. And so I think I've bought some vintage cards as a collector. Now, when we're talking about like, is this a good time to invest? That just depends on what your kind of like thesis is on the future, because just because something goes down doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to come back, right? Like, yeah, the market has ebbs and flows, and there are going to be ups and downs, but you just never know, when something's already had it's like major heyday. Like, there's a possibility vintage may come back and set new highs in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But there is also a world where vintage just kind of finds its footing, maybe kind of goes up and down over the years, maybe rises a little bit, but it may never see the heights. Like, we may never see a PSA 9 base set Charizard sell for $7,000 again. Like, there's a world where that just never happens. And so, like, I don't know. I mean, I just think you really need to like get in your head what you believe about the future of the market. I mean, what about you, Eli? Like, do you kind of just think that when things do kind of recover for vintage, they are all going to eventually go up and rise higher than they ever have before? Or do you think it's kind of a hit and miss type thing?
Well, I always want to preface, as always, because I feel like people are always going to take me out of context. for me personally, I want people to understand when we talk about vintage being in a slump, I very much am not making it as a blanket statement, as everything is in a slump, right? You go look at level X cards, they are still selling like hotcakes in PSA 10 conditions right now, right? And that's one of the reasons why I'm not picking them up, because I don't want to go drop $2,000 on a regular level X card when I know 2 years ago they were selling for literally like 100, $200 a piece. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're going to go back to. I'm not saying I won't buy them at, four, five, six, $1,000. But I am saying is that there are still certain sectors of the vintage market that is still performing well. Oh, yeah. But when we look at the overall market, a large portion of it is in a slump as it stands right now, right? So I want to start off by prefacing this. Now, with that being said, I do think that there are a lot of opportunities, or at least we look at it right now in the market and we say there's an opportunity. And as the current market of Pokemon is still performing well, even with some demand coming out, it's one of those things where I just get a little bit more scared of investing, even if it seems like an opportunity, because the idea of that it can never go lower is something that I feel as if is always being said. Like a perfect example of that is the Lugia first edition PSA 9 from Neo Genesis. I remember that card at its highest point was selling for $17,000. And it retraced all the way down when I bought it for $2,700, right? And I remember saying, this is a fantastic deal. And within I'm not even kidding you, a month after I bought it, it started to sell for like $400 lower. And for me, it was one of those impulsive buys that I regretted. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take my loss on it. This was a card that I bought because I thought it was at a good opportunity to pick up at. I sold it at a $200 loss, took the L, moved on, and within a month or so after that, I saw sales in the low 2000s for the card, and it dropped another $400 or $500 after that. And so it's one of those things where I was like, oh, okay, I lost 200, but if I had waited even longer, then I could have lost even more. I'll be interested to see what the current price of it is, so I'll have to look that up here in a second when I finish my statement. But I guess, once again, going back to my main point of this, is I don't know what floors are for these vintage cards because they are just so volatile. And I would much rather find a place in where the volatility within the market, specifically for vintage, starts to calm down and we're a lot more of a stable place where there is that consistency of prices not fluctuating so much, to where I feel like it's a lot safer of an investment for me compared to, once again, going back to it with sealed products, specifically ultra modern. I know what floors are because I know what wholesale pricing is, and I have something I can go off of, where in theory we could potentially, it's all hypothetical, go into a recession point within the next year where unemployment rate shoots up 2-3%, demand starts to plummet, and that card could all of a sudden be worth $1,000, $5,000, $1,500, however much it is, and a PSA 9. So it's just one of these things where I look at it as a potential opportunity, but I also look at it as something that could also have extremely high upside risk. And in theory, I could say, oh, let's dollar cost average, but I don't know. It's something that I like to still stay away from because I'm very risk averse in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, if I'm going to play vintage, and I'm not just for my collection, I've come to a point now where I'm taking a certain amount of money just to collect, and I'm not going to worry about the prices, and I'm just going to buy and get what I want, with a certain small portion each month, just because you get so wrapped up in the values and trying to be so financially, smart. And I needed to get back to some sort of enjoyment in the hobby. So I am buying some stuff for myself, but when it comes down to worrying about the investment factor, that's where I always go back to sealed product. Even back in the day when I first started back in 16, 17 again. Because before that, I got in 15, 16, but I was really just buying the old sets. I bought base through Gym Challenge, and I was just kind of buying some theme decks. But when I started actually investing, I immediately first went to sealed product again. I went to blister packs, and I went to, just old products and things, and then eventually booster boxes. And I just always feel safer in booster boxes. I mean, TCA Gaming, Rusty, he's opening another base Jungle and Fossil coming up here in a week or two. These are just getting opened by all these streamers and TikTokers and whatnotters because they're able to charge $350, $450 a pack. They're able to make $500 to $1,000 a box, and they are just going through these. So I don't even care if all the rumors are true about the airplane hangars and all this ridiculous warehouses full of all this product, okay, that's great. Well, if the streamers keep opening them at this rate, they're going to go through all those pallets and airplane hangars and warehouses pretty quickly. And in the future, there's not going to be a lot of sealed product left. But what there is going to be, there's going to be massive amounts of those cards in the market in mint condition, because everyone opening them now is keeping them in absolute mint condition. Maybe they're hard to grade in some sets. Maybe the 10s won't be as high, but there'll be plentiful 9s and 8s. And so, but there's always going to be people wanting to open stuff just for that nostalgia, just for that fun, that rush, that gamble. And so if I'm looking at like base, that Jungle Fossil, Rocket, even getting the Neos, like I'm still going towards a sealed product, because one, it's like a mutual fund. You don't have to, kind of pick the right stock. You don't have to pick the right card that's gonna bust out. You have the whole box. And so any of the cards that go up, it's going to help the box. As the supply goes down, it's going to help the box. And so I'm just still on the sealed product route on any of the vintage stuff if I'm going to move into vintage. But I mean, and I feel the same way with like modern, especially when you get like, if you're not making like plays, you're not trying to buy and grade and do things like that. When you get like into the later Sword and Shield or early Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, XY, I mean, yeah, I'm making some plays and some cards, but I still just think the boxes are going to continue to rise over time. Like with cards, we'll see those massive peaks and valleys. With the boxes, after reprints are over, after that first 2 to 3 years, you don't see a lot of peaks and valleys with boxes. You see steady growth. What are you kind of feel the same way about that, or where are you at?
Well, it's another thing too, and I've said this before when it comes to people asking me questions about vintage all the time. Like, I am not an expert when it comes to the vintage market, because the amount of time it takes for you to learn the vintage market and really understand it on a deeper level, it's a whole entire different beast of its own, right? And so I've always recommended people to go watch people like SM Pratt, who know vintage, who are like, that's their bread and butter, right? Specifically, they also know Japanese really well, right? Like, my bread and butter and what I know the best is the ultra modern market, right? And for that reason, it's one of those things where at the end of the day, I could say to myself, yes, I see there's a ton of opportunity in this market. But at the end of the day, if I don't know how to take advantage of these opportunities and I'm just going with the rest of the market, then I'm just going to get burnt, right? And going back to my original example that I gave of me making a bad mistake, because I want to still let people know, like, I'm human, I still make mistakes. It's something that I learned that, hey, although in theory this is something that was deemed as a good opportunity just based on looking at the charting, that doesn't change from the fact of the matter that the volatility within the market and the risk within the market is one that is not to be trifled with. And I also I found the most recent sale listed. So the last one sold on auction on June 18th, the PSA 9, it sold for $2,425. So it sold for several $100s under what I sold at a $200 loss for, right? So for me, if I want to, I can probably still go pick it up slightly cheaper than what I sold it for at a loss if I really wanted to, which, it's rebounded though, because I saw it at one point where it was selling in the low 2000s, like several $100s, even lower than that. So,
well, it's kind of like when I went bankrupt on Pokemon Go. Right? Hey Eli, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's just something that for me, I know the ultra modern market. I know for me personally as well, because of the price points, it just feels drastically more conservative when I can go pick up a booster box. Like if you wanted to, I mean, I made a video about it, Silver Tempest. I made the video back when the set was on release, and I said, hey guys, I'm going to do a video where I talk about my general theory of playing the wave and how you can make an opportunity into buying just the newest set. It's a Lugia set. I think it's going to do well long term. I'm buying it at $90 a piece. If you want to pick it up with me, you can. If you want to see my progression and how I've done and performed, you can, right? And if we go look at the price of the booster box right now for Silver Tempest, I think it's selling for what, like $150-ish a piece right now, if I'm correct. Last time I checked at it, it looks like it's selling for, let me see, listing without photos. It's selling for $146, so a little bit under $150. So it's like
60%.
Yeah, so there's a ton of opportunity. I mean, and that's short term, right? Like this is a set that came out back in what? When did it came out in November, I think, because September 9th is when Lost Origin came out. So I think it did come out sometime in November. So it's like this is a set that's realistically only 7 months old and it's done that well. And granted, you know, there hasn't been a ton of reprints, and if a reprint does happen, it'll potentially go down. But I mean, as we were talking about before we were on the live here with the stream, sets like Darkness Ablaze, this was a set that went to $200, got a reprint, shot down to 120, then climbed back up to 180, then got another reprint, went all the way down to $100, and now it's pushing to 160. So it's like it doesn't matter if it gets a reprint or not, it's going to do well long term over time. And you bet that once you get out of rotation, we could see a completely similar trend to what we're seeing with Sun and Moon, where all of a sudden 2, 3, 4 years out, all these cards and the sealed product that seems to be, you know, valued appropriately is going to be seen as drastically undervalued.
And Darkness Blaze is the perfect example because, you know, that biggest hit, the Charizard, I mean, soaking wet right now, it sells for like $100 maybe as a PSA 10. And that's the best thing you can pull out of that set is a 10, meaning if it doesn't get a perfect 10, you're basically losing money. I mean, even if it gets a 10, you're losing money on the box. And so it's like everyone always wants to try to be, you know, smarter than they are and wants to really dig into every set and how strong the set is. And yeah, it has something to do with it. That's why Evolving Skies is where it's at. That's why Team Up's doing what it's doing. But it's the sets rise over time because the steel product gets scarce. I mean, Darkness Ablaze is a very weak set. I mean, I don't need to go through and talk about all the weak sets in history, but Darkness Ablaze is very weak, 160 a box. I mean, it's just, I don't know how many more times it has to happen. Like, I got sick of debating with people. You know, some people will never be satisfied. You know, this could go on for another 10 years. They'll still say it's not proven. It's going to crash tomorrow. But sealed product rises over time. It's no secret. It happens. It's just one of those things. I do want to give a shout out. Don Harrington gifting a Nomics Fan Plus membership and also a $5 super chat. Don, I really appreciate it. Just want to say thank you to Alex and Eli for a terrific stream. Advice is invaluable if used correctly. Really appreciate it, Don. Don's been a channel member now for over a month. Got his great ball. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for all the love. I'm sure whoever got that membership's loving it too. So that's awesome. But there it is right there. But with that being said, yeah, I just I don't know. I find it hard to believe at this day and age anyone can still hate on or like be in disbelief over sealed product. You know, it's like watching the same thing over and over and then thinking, oh no, this time it's going to be different. And here's the thing. It's like, even if some future day in the future, some crazy catastrophic event happens, I always talk about if you're following the process, like I'm sure you do too. Once things appreciate to a certain level, you sell off part of your inventory or maybe keep some, rinse and repeat, buy the new stuff, continue to kind of use that method. How many hundreds of % are you going to be up? How much money are you going to make off the hobby by doing that to where if something does happen in 10 years down the road, you're already so far ahead to where it doesn't matter if you take losses at that point. Like, it's just getting involved. It's taking action that I think people miss out on because they just get paralyzed by fear. You know, I think it's been positive for too long. It's not going to, you know, end this time, or it's going to end this time. And I think that's when usually the biggest gains are made, is when the most fear is in the market, which I'm not going to say there's a ton of fear in the market right now. I'm not trying to be like a fear monger and act like everyone's jumping out of windows, but people are definitely a little more negative about like long-term Pokemon investing right now. So I don't know where that takes us right now.
People said I was crazy when I said that the sentiment for Paldea Evolved was going to be the same as how it was for Rebel Clash. I've said that I love the set Paldea, and I think it's got amazing art designs, and I said it's a set that's going to do well long term. My most recent video, it was one of my top 5 investments, and I said I absolutely loved it. But that doesn't change the fact of the matter that what I think about it compared to what the rest of the market thinks about it, like, I said that and people immediately thought I was like just being super negative. Like, oh my God, you're just absolutely crapping on this set for no absolute reason. Like, what the heck? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not crapping on this set. I'm just saying that here's the reality of the situation. Pokemon Company for the past 3 or 4 generations have done the exact same thing. 2 competitively viable sets, one Charizard set. Going back to XY, we obviously had our Charizard set being that of Flashfire. Sun and Moon, it was Burning Shadows. Then Darkness Ablaze. Now Obsidian Flames. And the 2 sets prior to that were always the base and always a set that people didn't care about. Sure, you can say Phantom Forces is, kind of an exception to that, but Furious Fist to follow it up. Like, everyone hated Furious Fist, right? So it's just something where it doesn't take an expert to go look at history and say, oh, the first 2 sets of almost every single generation for the past 4 generations has always done extremely poor. I wonder if the Scarlet and Violet Paldea Evolved set's going to do poor, and if people are going to look negatively on it. Like, no, it's just, once again, history repeating itself.
Well, Flashfire was second set, though.
Right. Well, I that's why I said within the first 3 sets, there's always a Charizard set, right?
Yeah.
So that it's it's been different orders for XY, but it's always first 3 sets. There's always going to be a Charizard.
Yeah, I made the similar comment about Paldea in one of my recent videos too. I said I think this is going to be one of the biggest sleepers. Like, obviously, Scarlet and Violet base, it's probably going to do okay just because it's a base set. They always do relatively. They're not ever the greatest sets. They're not ever usually the lowest. And it'll do all right because it is getting passed over. But I think Paldea is a sleeper. I think it's not that weak of a set. And I even said, like, I want to eventually get up to like 10 cases of it by the end of this fall. Like, I really believe in that long term. But Retro made a funny comment. He said, when people go Galaxy Brain and try to be cool guys rather than just going for the obvious plays, they get cooked. I wanted to take this because my most recent video, I went through and showed like all the sets from XY through Sword and Shield. And every one of the top hits, other than 2, there was the Dragon Majesty hit and the Pikachu from Vivid Voltage. Those were the only 2 top hits in the set that haven't went absolutely bananas this year and straight up, other than a few of the Charizards. And so one of the things I like talk about is how, the whole thumbnail was like Charizard's dead. It was just clickbait type stuff. But Charizard's definitely getting overlooked right now. It's getting outperformed by every other set or every other hit in all the other sets right now. But what that also shows is that all the top hits in the set are moving. And people always think like, oh man, everyone already knows about the top hit. The play's gone there. There's nothing there. And they always try to dig real deep in the set and try to find these real niche cards, real obscure cards. And like, oh, I'm going to get ahead of the game. And yeah, you can speculate and sometimes you'll get lucky and that's where the big giant gains are made. But I mean, most of the time it's just the obvious thing. It's putting sealed product away when you can get it at or under distribution or retail level. Like now it looks like under $100 is going to be the floor. Like before it was like under $90, but it's the obvious play. It's, hey, go after the most popular, best artwork cards in the set. Those are the ones that are going to carry up the most in the future. When you get too smart with your investing, like that's usually where you get into trouble. It's like, don't overthink it or talk yourself out of plays, in my opinion, just because you think it's like seen by everyone else or it isn't like a well thought of enough play. Do you kind of feel that way, or do you think what people should do a lot more research, really dive in and get more knowledge and find those cards no one else knows about?
It's definitely one of those things where, oh gosh. Well, it's funny because I think of this also in terms of like singles as well. Like, and here's what I always have to go back to is I always have to remind myself that there's always going to be opportunities and I can't just try and FOMO in, because I remember when I was watching Tag Team go crazy in price, I'd said to myself, Cosmic is next. And I said that a lot of these cards in Cosmic are going to go like crazy. You're going to start to see the prices go up. And at the end of the day, I was like, should I start picking up these cards? I know they're probably going to do well. But then I said to myself, I don't have the liquidity to just drop thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars into picking up a lot of these cards right now, just because as a business that I run, I have to be liquid or I have to consistently be churning. I can't just be tying up my assets and things that I just can't afford to do that. And then lo and behold, a month after we had that discussion, I saw the price of a lot of the cards double, right? And I was like, I knew this was going to happen. It was staring me right in the face and I got upset. But at the end of the day, I'm like, this is going to happen again. I'm going to know when the next opportunity is going to happen, and either I can take advantage of it if I have the liquidity, or I can move on and just take advantage of something else that's going to happen. So it's not like it's one of these things where we immediately have to jump in because there's so many, opportunities. And with Paldea Evolve being one of them, where once again, you can pick it up at $92, which is slightly below wholesale. It's just an opportunity that's staring you right in the face. And if you want to take advantage of it, you can. And if you want to, not, then that's okay, because there's probably going to be another set that's going to be in the future, such as 151. And this is the biggest thing I've been preaching, is if we watch and see how much Crown Zenith is sitting on the shelves right now at these big box retailers, and you've got 151 coming out in September, what's 2 months from that? It's going to be Black Friday, and you bet there's going to be a ton of this product on deep, deep discounts, and everyone's going to be eating it up because the opportunity for that's going to be incredible. So I'm already predicting future possibilities where I can take advantage literally 3 months from now. So it's just something that, patience is the name of the game. Don't FOMO into an opportunity just because you don't want to miss out.
Yeah, obviously, just like my opinion. I think Crown Zenith is right behind Evolving Skies as the best set in the era. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Oh no, 1,000%. No, I 1,000% agree with you. I said that either Crown Zenith is the best set in the Sword and Shield era, or at least it's a top 3 one, and for me, right behind Evolving. It's tough because biasedly, I think Evolving is better, but that's just because my favorite regular Pokemon is Evolutions. I love Evolution cards, and so for that reason, I just enjoy it so much more. Even though I love Giratina, I love Dialga, I love the Palkia art designs, and I love Cynthia and everything, which is why it's such a hard. It's like choosing which child I love more, right? So for me, it's just extremely difficult. But I don't know. It's just. They're both.
I think it's time right now. Just because you mentioned Cynthia, I think we need to get controversial. I think we need to answer this question: are waifus the new Charizard?
I don't know about if they're. Well, I don't know. I guess, what do you mean by are they the new Charizard?
I mean that Pokemon puts a top rarity, good art Charizard in a set, and then they put an amazing waifu in a set. Is that waifu going to be the chase card over Charizard?
That's a tough one, because I think the answer is potentially yes. I think it's definitely going to be one of the top cards, but it's hard for me to say definitively yes yet, because I look at sets like Cosmic, and you're starting to see the waifu cards take.
It just happened. Yeah, so since there's 100 and something people in here, I want to give a quick shout out. My box break is going to be Sunday, 7 o'clock. We still got packs left for Cosmic Eclipse, Crown Zenith, and Hidden Fates, which Hidden Fates is creeping up. They're all going to be on nostalgianomics.com homepage. You can buy the packs there. We're going to open up live on screen. But what I wanted to say about that is Cosmic Eclipse, the waifu, whatever, I forget, Lily? Is it Lily in that? I forget. It just passed.
It's Lily. It's Lily, and it's which the Lily's not even the best card in the set, if I'm correct.
Well, whatever one it is, it just passed that stone sculpture version of Dialga, Palkia, and
it's Rosa.
Yeah, Rosa. It just passed it because at the start of my box break, the stone sculpture of those three were the top card. Well, now the waifu's finally passed it on TCG players as the top selling for near mint. So they're definitely rising up and now beating out the top Pokemon that were in the sets before. And so I'm just seeing a huge shift. I don't see it going anywhere. I just think the waifu tax is here. I've had people talk to me from the Yu-Gi-Oh community telling me that there's always been a waifu tax there. It's always, waifu cards are always going to demand a higher premium. And I just feel like it's here to stay in Pokemon. I don't think it's this just Japanese, blip on the screen of why. I just really, truly believe that this is going to kind of be the norm going forward, at least for the near future. But go on with your thought about it.
Well, I guess the thing is it's I see it coming. I just don't know if we're there yet, because in my mind, I will definitively know 100% it's going to happen when we start to see cards, even in sets like Brilliant Stars, Shining Fates, and the waifus in that just like go crazy. And to be fair, like you're already seeing the Skyla from Shining Fates within like the past month already 2x from like $10 to $20. But like that's crazy, right? Like, oh wow, it just 2x. But if I see that card go 40, 50, 60, like we're talking it's now the second, like that's where I start to be like, holy crap, this is happening now, right? And same concept goes with Brilliant Stars, like I said, with the Cynthia, or even like the Marnie too. Like the Marnie's Full Art Pride has also started to go up. I mean, it went from $13 now to $23, which is so funny because I mean, this is literally like this is just happening before our eyes as we're having this conversation. And so I just asked myself,
I think you're answering our own question. I think you're saying yes, it is the new Charizard.
I mean, but like I said, it's a question now for me of is there a waifu craze? But does that mean that's yes, there is a waifu craze. But when I think of the new Charizard, I mean I think of it as in it's gonna be like the number one card in the set, right? I think it's gonna be one of the best cards in the set. And right now, if you go look at the cards such as the Cynthia, the card itself has done well. The Marnie's Pride has done well, but it's still not anywhere near close the top one or top two cards in the set, which is the Charizard, right? Like the Charizard v alternate art, although I think it's drastically undervalued, it's still selling for like 130. The Rainbow's selling for 60, and the Marnie's Pride is still down all the way at $20. So unless that card just all of a sudden skyrockets to like 60, $70, it's hard for me to say that it's fully taken over in the same regard. But like I said, I still believe there's a waifu mania. I still think there's craze. I still think there's a ton of value in them, but it's not to that whole peak where it's now like the best card in every set like Charizard has typically been, historically speaking.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about that. It's definitely not like as established, I don't think, yet as Charizard is. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe we just been going through like a bit of a Charizard fatigue with the Charizard UPCs, and a lot of Charizards were released very close to each other, and so I think that's probably part of it. But yeah, this waifu anime thing is just it's going so much further than I thought it was. Like I thought it was going to be like a quick little fun thing. Oh yeah, we're all chasing these, and they were going to have like a downturn and find some new high or low like Vintage did. But honestly, I don't know where to go with it. I mean, like. Yeah, they're awesome cards. Like they're pretty cards. Like I like them, but it's just like I don't personally get it. I mean, I don't know what to think of it. I don't know. I think we're at the row where if you got ahead of this and you got it right, you're very happy right now. If you're jumping in now on the way up, well, be ready to be prepared to be along for the ride, because it could keep going into infinity, or you could kind of suffer the same thing like you were talking about with the PSA 9 Lugia from Neo Genesis, because that could always happen at some point. Whereas, like you said, Charizard's always been one of the top cards in every set, and going back is all the way to the base set, every Charizard that's ever been released has always performed relatively well in every single set. So yeah, you're just you're betting on kind of like a brand new future, other than kind of like the status quo has always been, I think.
Well, I guess my question is too, when we talk about Charizard fatigue, are you referencing more of like just the cards within the sets, or the sets that have Charizards, or what define Charizard fatigue, I guess, for me?
Well, I guess it's kind of like why I didn't like the Charizard UPCs. And now, like, listen to, I know you've always been a fan of them, even way before I was. Then Dan kind of Catch 'em all collectibles, he kind of talked about it, and so I'm now, and I have a lot of Charizard UPCs. I got in a good price point, but I just feel like there was no reason for it, right? Like the Sword and Shield era already had Charizard V Max, V Stars. We already had those cards. We didn't need another V Max, V Star. And then there's more Charizards. And then when you look back like other eras, you can kind of see how that happened in Sun and Moon. Like you have the original Burning Shadows Charizard, and then the Charizard Reshiram. It did well, but it did a little worse. And then the Charizard Braxian from Cosmic Eclipse, I don't even know if it's in the top 3-4 cards, like in the Rainbow Rare version. So you can kind of see, like, as more and more Charizards keep getting released in sets, they start to dwindle in popularity. And I just feel like Sword and Shield already had the Charizards, and then you threw more Charizards, and it's just like they just kept coming and coming to where people were like, okay, I've seen enough. I've got enough Charizard arts in this era. I'm going to start going for these other cards. And that's why when you look at like every other set, you're seeing every other card that's not Charizard kind of skyrocket this year. But then the Charizards, they're kind of stagnant to down. Only a few are up.
I think my counter argument to that would just be if you go look at like the Charizard performances within the past year to within the Sun and Moon era, the Charizards that have been performing quote unquote worse in the sets are the ones where there is a difference of unique art design. And so what I mean by that, like if it's a Radiant Charizard, then Radiants are a lot easier to pull, right? If you go look at the Sun and Moon era in terms of the alternate art Charizard, that was something that was thrown in as a promo. It's just a rainbow, right? And right now, what is the hysteria that's happening? It's right now waifus and it's alternate art cards. We don't have an alternate art Charizard design for the Reshiram because that was one that was thrown into as a collection box. And so for that reason, you're not going to see the value of that card within the set for both Unbroken and Cosmic as the same because all these other cards that are performing better are alternate art cards, which is currently what's popping off the most right now. Obviously, I understand that rainbow cards are still doing well right now, but if you look at even the percentage returns on how the rainbows are doing compared to the alternate arts, they're doing ridiculously better. Same concept once again applies for the Sword and Shield era with the special premium collection. You had the Japanese version of V-Star Universe, which had the Charizards in them, and they are some of the most expensive cards in the set outside of the God card pulls that you have to obviously get and the waifus. And with that, we took those cards in English and we said, we're not going to make those pulls. We're instead going to make them cards as promos. And so because of that, the supply is drastically overinflated for these specific cards, right? But if you go and you take a set like Brilliant Stars, right, where it has an alternate art version of the card, it is still the best performing one. If you take a set like Shining Fate,
but it's performing poor this year.
Right, but I guess that's why I asked the question at the very beginning. Is it performing poor in the context of you look at the card within the set and it's performing worse than everything else, or it's performing poor as in it's not as high as...
No, I'm saying like it's down for the year is what I'm saying. Where like every other sets, the top hits are up.
So what you're saying specifically is that, okay, well, like, but that's not necessarily true though, because like look at like Brilliant, going back to it, right?
So here's what I did, like on my video, I took every XY Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield set, every single set, and I pulled up the highest, the top card in every single set, and only a few of the Charizards were up, some were stagnant, and the rest were down. Every other set, the top card was up, with the exception of Dragon Majesty and Vivid Voltage Pikachu. Every other one. So 99% of the sets, every card was like straight up. The chart all looked like straight up. The Charizards were the only ones that weren't performing well other than those other two. And so it kind of gave me like the realization that, hey, people have serious Charizard fatigue. I mean, like the Shining Fates, the Hidden Face Charizard, the Charizards from the Sun and Moon sets, like the original Burning Shadows one was doing all right, but they're real stagnant to even down. Like the Brilliant Stars is way down, like straight down this year. And so it kind of gave me the idea that people are really getting a little tired right now of the Charizards.
I guess that the point I'm more or less making is there's so many different instances as to why the Charizards from each of the sets is down. So you're just so that I'm on the same page with you. You're not making the argument that Charizards, or maybe you are, they're not going to be the best, like most expensive cards in the set. You're just saying overall that the cards are not performing as well, regardless of whether it's the top card in the set or not.
Right. Yeah, they're not performing well. And then like, I think we got into this because I was just asking your opinion on like the waifu versus Charizard, which I'm the same way you are. I don't know if that's going to be the new thing, but no, I'm not saying like they're not going to like, recover and Charizard's like, Obsidian Flames is going to have a Charizard, but it's not going to be one of the top cards in the set. No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, yeah, that's why I asked, because there's so many ways to obviously interpret that, right?
Yeah.
Like, Charizard sets, obviously, as we discussed with sold products performing well. It's with like Darkness Ablaze. I think for me, I get the point you're making. It's just hard because there's so many like caveats to that, right? Like Shining Fates, for example. That's a set that's been printed 4 times. Like that set's been printed in the ground. Darkness Ablaze has also been printed 4 separate times. Like they're both sets that have been absolutely just printed into the ground. And when you talk about the rarity of cards in the Sun and Moon era and the cards that are popping off the most right now, it is the alternate art cards within the Sun and Moon era, which Charizard doesn't have one of those as a standard card. It only has the rainbow variation, which once again, rainbows are doing well. And to be fair, the rainbow itself has been performing bad. But when I look at all the other instances of the Charizards performing bad, it's less having to do with, there isn't a demand. It's because they're the most oversaturated, overprinted card within that set, and or it doesn't have a unique rarity to it compared to the rest of the set. So that's where it's hard, because I can literally point to every single instance of a Charizard and it's going to have a completely different variable. Going back to Hidden Fates, when it came to Hidden Fates, that was a set that got printed into the ground. And that's why you saw prices for it drastically kind of fall. So it's hard.
So I just pulled up. So I'm trying to give you a kind of idea. Like, so I'm pulling up like Unbroken Bonds and Cosmic Eclipse, right? And so with Cosmic Eclipse, or I mean with the Unbroken Bonds, the Sylveon Gardevoir is now past the tag team Reshiram Charizard Rainbow as the top card in the set. And then the other Charizard, like the full art, is like way down at like, I don't know, 10th or something. And then in Cosmic Eclipse, you got the Rosa, the Arceus, Dialga, Palkia card, the Solgaleo. Like the Charizard Braxian's like 8th or something. Even the Blastoise Piplup are ahead of it. And so I'm just like really seeing like Charizard not get the same, the obvious play. Like before it was like, well, if all else fails, nothing about Pokemon and you want to buy something, throw it in Charizard. Like Charizard never fails. And I'm just, and then like, if you look at the charts of the Charizard cards, like when I look at the charts of the Rosa, the RC, like all these other cards, they're very steadily up this year. And when I look at the Charizard charts, they're steadily down for the year. Like you can pick any one you want and you can just put it on the year chart and they're just like steadily down. And so that's where I kind of got thinking this way. It looks like the Charizard Braxian GX Rainbow did have it did recover, but now it's kind of like even for the year. But the Charizard from Unbroken Bonds, it's like the chart's like straight down basically on that one.
I guess the point when I look at Unbroken Bonds that I'm making though is like just looking at the set overall, right? And you look at like what the top performing cards are in the set right now, it's the alternate arts and it's the waifu. And right now, Reshiram and Charizard, it's the only one of those cards that is one of the most expensive cards in the set that's neither of those things, right? And so it's really difficult for me to say that, oh yeah, this card is performing so much drastically worse compared to the other cards that I'm passing it, the Gardevoir, the Sylveon, the Greninja, the Marshall. Like all these cards are alternate art cards, so it feels very like difficult for me to like kind of compare that, Like I guess you can say, okay, well at least the Blastoise has been performing well, but
so
I wouldn't say the Blastoise
just the art, just like the art and the alternate art rarity. Like you think it's just like that more than the Charizard.
I think it more has to do with rarity, because the rainbow rare for that specific card right now, like rainbow rares aren't popping off right now, right? It's the alternate arts that are popping off. It's the waifus that are popping off right now. So it's not to say like, oh, like they're not performing well, but it's more to say that, two things can be true at once, right? The Charizards cannot be performing well, but the cards that are overshadowing the Charizard are the ones with good art designs, right? Because looking at it, it is still the second most valuable card as a rainbow. It doesn't even have an alternate art variation. So it's hard for me to say, do I think this alternate art card with an amazing, gorgeous design, which everyone wants, is better than a Charizard card, which is a high demand character, but rainbows people are sick of, right? Like
well, if you pull up like the rainbow version of like the Reshiram Zekrom from Cosmic Eclipse, it's like the rainbow that's under the like next up under Charizard. It's straight up for the year. Like the chart's straight up and it's a rainbow. And so like that's the thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at like the rainbow. Like then I look at the Arceus Dialga Palkia Rainbow GX, and you look at the 1 year chart, it's straight up. And so like we're even seeing things in the same rarity, outperform. Like I'm not saying, and when I say outperform, I don't mean their value is eclipsing the value of the Charizard. I'm just saying, like, if you would have bought the same amount of money at the beginning of the year, your percentage, you're down on Charizard, you're up on the other cards. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be worth more than the Charizard at some point. I'm just saying that, like, the Charizards are definitely falling when the other cards are rising.
Well, I think that has less to do with the fact of the matter that specifically when I look at, like, the next rainbow up, right? I look at the Reshiram Zekrom GX card with a Lord N in front of it, right? Yeah. I look at that card design and I say that it's a drastically more beautiful card because it has a Lord N character in it, and it looks really good for that reason. And I think when you look at all these other cards,
well, what about the Arceus Dialga Palkia though?
Right, I think those cards were just drastically undervalued. Like it's not like I said before, it's not that I don't think like in theory like these cards are not performing better because like there's Charizard fatigue. I just think they're performing better because these cards have been way too undervalued for the longest time, and there's finally finding appreciation for them. And for me, it's like seeing most prevalently within the alternate arts and the waifus. Obviously, you're still seeing certain cards that are performing better from a general percentage basis when in terms of the Charizard, which in some instances the Charizards aren't even performing, period. But for the longest time, you've had these cards such as a literal like rainbow card of like, for example, the Arceus Dialga Palkia being sub $40, which feels like, and I mean, that feels crazy, especially considering the fact of the matter that you look at how the alternate art variation of the card is performing, right? Like you can compare a lot of these rainbow cards to their alt variations because in theory, if the alternate art version is going to go up and it's going to continue to go up, then by that same logic, what's the next up option, right? People are getting priced out of the current option, which is the alternate art because they've gotten so expensive. And so they're going to the next best option versus when it comes to the Rainbow Charizard, there isn't another variation of the card when it comes to that ultra rarity. Like, sure, you could say, oh, the next up option would be getting the like full art variation, which I mean, that's been performing really well. But at the end of the day, so is most of the items in Cosmic Eclipse. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like, it's really hard for me to just definitively say it because there's so many different variables to look at that make it just so tough, right? Like if
that's just where I got like, that's where I was like getting that question of, are the waifus going to surpass Charizard in these future sets in the Scarlet Violet era? That's where
it's like, I guess for me, if literally within that set, there was an alternate art Charizard and we saw that the alternate art as well as the Rainbow Charizard were performing poorly, then I was 1,000% agree with you. Yeah. But it's hard for me to immediately jump and be like, oh yeah, that's right. But there are these other variables that, I still have to consider. And that's just what makes it really hard for me to definitively say that, No,
I get it. It's smart. I mean, I get that. Yeah, it was just something I came across I thought was interesting. Poke Grinding, super chat. When will Alex get a Twitter? Eli is starting to blow up on there. Hey, I appreciate the $4.99, man. Yeah, I'm so bad at social media, guys. Like, I mean, I try to get on Discord. It doesn't work out well. And then, I try to reach out to Eli through Instagram, and Instagram's dead now. I'm just like Instagram was new to me at one point. Now I'm just like a, old boomer using Instagram. Everyone's on Discord. So now I got to get on Twitter too. Like it's all just too much. I'm still trying to perfect YouTube, but, yeah, I mean, Eli, so you got a Twitter rolling, huh? How's that going?
It's going good, man. I mean, we're definitely blowing up faster than anticipated. I mean, let's see. We've had the Twitter for, I say we, it's so funny. I have had the Twitter for like a couple of weeks now, like probably 3 or 4 weeks, and we're already up to almost 3,000 followers. I'll have to go check right now and see, but I mean, it's been cooking, man. And I'm definitely excited to see the growth of it. My whole thing right now, or what I'm just really trying to do, Yeah, we're at 2,882 right now. So
what do you mainly like use it for?
Mainly I just literally repost my videos on there. I just do giveaways on my Twitter. I make just posts about certain art design cards that I like, or just talk about Diamond and Pearl era stuff, which I enjoy. Like, just make random posts. I mean, it literally could be just for anything. My whole thing is I just want to delve into more social media right now, because now that I'm starting to have some liquidity more available to me, since things are going well with my business, it just makes me want to really double down on just reinvesting, and through that, spending time on just growing my other socials as well, because I think that's something that could potentially help. Like right now, I'm in the process of potentially looking into hiring someone on to help with edits for my YouTube channel, because I really want to start focusing on the quality of it, right? Like for me, it's really simple.
I mean, it's been pretty crappy. I get it.
It's the content's there. It's just the edits, man. Like you can get value out of the content, but less people are going to click on it if I don't have a better thumbnail or I don't have better edit. Like, there's so much improvement there. And for me, it's a lot easier with Twitter, because I just, have a couple of quick posts I need to make. I can do a lot of engagement with the community there that I usually didn't have exposure with. So for me, that's a lot easier. But for things such as like, YouTube and TikTok and other things, there's so much more quality that goes into the shorts game of videos, or so much quality that comes into the editing game, right? So for me, that's where I'm like, all right, I want to start growing Twitter. I eventually want to start growing Instagram, start growing TikTok, start getting better with YouTube shorts and better edits. Like I just want to really do my best to kind of widen my outreach in terms of my content too.
I mean, it makes sense. I've been wanting to do the same thing with TikTok and YouTube Shorts, and I haven't got around to it. I mean, it's hard. It's hard trying to work full time, and then because this ends up being like a second full time job. I mean, it's like, I think everyone outside looking in, it just seems like so stupidly easy. Like, oh, well, all you gotta do is turn the camera on and talk, and how many hours can that really take? And it's like, when you take into account, like trying to plan out the videos, come up with topics, do your research, like actually set things up. If it takes you more than one take to actually get your thoughts out right. And then I respond to the comments, like that takes time. And then just, it just takes a lot of time. You put a lot of time and effort into this. And so, it just comes down to time. Like I know it's the right move. Like I know putting more time and spending and actually getting and editing things is the right move. It's just, I don't know. I need to find more time to do those things while still having some sort of life. But I'm a little behind in the comments, but like at one point there was like a lot of debate, it looks like, in the chat on somehow they got on the topic of Shining Fates and Champion's Path. So I guess we'll kind of give our thoughts on that. Like Shining Fates and Champion's Path. I mean, where are you on those two sets, man?
Is there context? Is there context to it, or are they just asking opinions on it?
I'm trying to read through. I'm here. Like, here's Don. He said, "I see your point. Champion's Path products sell better, and the price is better on TCG Player." Let me see. Let me see what people are saying about it. Did Jen Pokemon Center as Shining Fates sold out? Also, it's under MSRP. Also, Champion's Path was a crappy set outside of the two Zars. Shining Fates similar parallel, but prices haven't spiked yet. So I think kind of maybe the consensus is because Shining Fates hasn't recovered after its reprint, there's a lot more opportunity there than Champion's Path, like around $100 maybe. And they're both, even though they're both kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, more lackluster sets. But I don't know. I mean, do you see an opportunity in either one of those, or one over the other?
So I see, because Pokemon Center has Shining Fates sold out. It's also under MSRP. Shining Fates similar parallel, but price haven't spiked. I mean, here's the deal at the end of the day, right? One of my, for those of you guys that have been watching my channel for a while now, one of my like most hated sets, like I have an utmost disdain for this set just because of the pull rates and the card condition. Burning Shadows can go F itself. Like I hate that set so freaking much. And yet at the end of the day, it's still a set that what's the price of the booster boxes now?
Honestly, it's that you're right though. It's not good. I mean, I think it might still be in the 300s. So it's definitely on the lower end of that whole era right now.
So let me see what it's going for right now. So it currently is selling for $400 a booster box is what it's selling for.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which I know this was a set that was also printed extremely heavily into the ground. Like they printed the crap out of this set. We're talking XY era type prints. So it's definitely one that has just
wow. So I don't know if you look at the chart. So basically in February it was going for around $350. So we've seen a $60 move in the past 4 months.
You know,
it's just keeping up with everything else. I think people are just. I think what's happening is people know they have time with Scarlet and Violet and Paldea and stuff, and they're just kind of going back and saying, well, what hasn't moved a lot? What's still affordable back in X, Y, and Sun and Moon that I can go pick up before everything moves like the tag teams have?
Like literally, average player brings up a good point. He says Charizard save burning. If that set didn't have a Charizard, then that set would be worse than Crimson. And I think the problem is you look at all of these sets that have Charizards in it, and you look at them and you say, wow, these sets are absolutely atrocious. And I think that this kind of pisses. Okay, if I'm being honest, like
come on, dude. It's got Wick. It's got Wick full art, man.
If I'm being honest, I think the thing that does aggravate me the most about what the Pokemon Company does do with Charizards is they're like, hey, man, sure, the rest of this set sucks, but we know if we can throw a Charizard in it, then people are still going to eat it up. And so it's difficult because we know that if there was more than just a Charizard in that set, then it could be like a Cosmic, it could be like an Unbroken Bonds. But because it just has a Charizard in it, and that is literally it, everything else sucks, it's not good, it's still going to perform well, right? Like it's going to perform better than Crimson or Base Set or Guardians Rising and some of these other sets. But it's like there's so much missed opportunity and potential that this set could have had in its overall performance. Not to mention, too, like I said, it was a set that was heavily printed into the ground.
Skippy's FX, he's here. I know you know him, don't you, personally?
Oh yeah, I met him in real life. Him and his wife had my fiance and I over for dinner. Super awesome couple.
Yeah, I talked to him on the on like a Discord call before. Yeah, he's a super nice guy. He's kind of saying the same thing, like the obvious like play, right? Like, should we be looking at the bottom for Charizards though? Like the downtrend of them doesn't seem intimidating to me. It seems like a perfect time to buy. Like that's always the question. It's the same question we talked about with vintage. Like, does that mean it's time to buy? Is it undervalued enough and time to move in, or is it a scenario like you saw with the Lugia? I mean, there's just no way of knowing, especially when you're buying cards. Like, you know, most people are only buying one card, so you can't really dollar cost average into it. And so it's hard to pick the bottoms. I don't know if this is the bottom. You know, if the market does get bearish and everything kind of downturns, 10 or 20%, they could continue down. I don't know. Like,
I mean, you have to look at it in this regard too, right? There's always going to be hypes for certain types of cards in the market, whether it be characters or whether it be art designs. And for the longest time, it was Charizard. Every Charizard in every set was drastically overvalued. It was always super duper expensive, right? And now because of that, we're seeing a huge retrace with a lot of these Charizards, not necessarily because, Charizards all of a sudden, like, everyone just hates Charizards. It's just because they were so drastically overvalued, whereas a lot of these other cards that were alternate arts, waifus, that people didn't really have an appreciation for, now have a massive appreciation for and are now seen as undervalued. So for me, if I look at just the long-term performance of how Charizards have done and how they are right now, I see a lot of them as an absolutely amazing opportunity, which is why I always say that the alternate art Charizard from Brilliant Stars is ridiculously undervalued, especially considering for a brief moment in time there, we saw the starting sets of the alternate arts for like Battle Styles, Chilling Reign have like a 2x return after they got printed in the ground, where you haven't seen that in sets like Brilliant Stars. And it's a matter of time before all of a sudden that card shoots up to $200-$300, and people are going to be like, "Oh, that's crazy! Who would have guessed it? A Charizard alternate art card is gone up in value finally after it's been a slump while the rest of the alternate art cards have been performing really well.
How many those Charizards do you own?
I own 0 as this video. I'll get you baited.
Are we gonna do one of those things where you hop on and buy them live on screen?
Oh no, I'm not gonna do that. Frick that. I'm honestly done with that. I've been burnt way too many times by I would be like, yeah, guys, I'm gonna do this live, and then people like to troll me because they think it's funny and they raise the price up so that my dollar cost average is higher. Like, what the heck, man? Like, I remember I did that with like the Sleeping Pikachus, and my dollar cost average was going to be like $6 a card, and it ended up being $7 because people went in and bought a ton of it up on stream before I had the chance to. And I'm like, are you kidding me, guys? And I'm still sitting on them. I haven't even sent them in for grading yet, just because I'm just so busy all the time. But I'm literally just sitting on stacks of these, dude. Like, I just have so many of these Pikachus.
What is it? The trainer gallery?
It's the trainer gallery one, which, to be fair, like, it's an amazing art design. It is art card.
Hey, speaking of that, of trolling, have you followed the chat at all?
Oh, yes, I've been following the chat.
The PTCG radio, man, Cornhub, and there's people that are that keep talking about it. Like, what? So I don't obviously catch like all your videos, all your lives, every second of them. So what happened? Like, why are you in this big debate thing?
I'm not, though. That's the thing. Literally, this is all that happened. This is literally all that happened, right? People came to me and said, hey, Eli, PTCG Radio made a video saying there's going to be Cosmic Eclipse and Evolving Skies ETB reprints, Cosmic booster boxes, right? Do you know if this is true or not? I said, no, I have not heard anything from my sources. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't trust PTCG Radio as a source because he's been multiple times wrong in the past. And that's it. And then immediately people are like, whoa, you say that he makes hot takes where he's inaccurate, or not hot takes, but has some sources that he's inaccurate? Wow, I can't believe you have such hate or disdain for the guy. And they make it seem like I just go to bed thinking about this guy with like pictures on my wall. Like, no, it's just people asked a question and they said, do you have any sources that are confirming this? I said no. And then, okay, well, do you trust him as a source? And I said no. And then I just ended it there. People are just trying to blow it up because, people just want the smoke and they want the drama. And for me, I've just like kind of ignored it, not fit into it, because I literally could care less. Like, I'm not a drama tuber. And for me, I just have no disdain for anyone in the hobby. And I just like to, stay in my lane. And at the end of the day, if people are going to be upset because I just don't trust them as a source, okay, well, if I'm wrong and Evolving Skies ETBs get reprinted and booster boxes of Cosmic get reprinted, then I'm ready to eat crow, man. And I will be so excited about it because you best be believing I'll be one of the first people to say this is the best thing to pick up right now for the next who knows how long, because the demand for those items are going to be crazy, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's just like people like wanting to, for drama to be there. Like, I don't know if they really think like we actually like are at each other's throats. Like, but yeah, same thing with like Jake Pokenomics, right? Like, I probably had, if I counted Instagram messages, Discord messages, like direct messages, and like even emails. I got a couple emails. I probably had like 20 plus people reach out to me yesterday. 20 plus people took the time to message me saying, hey, did you see that Jake was back? Pokenomics is back. He just said a lot. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, and so I messaged a couple people back, like, why is he saying stuff about me or something? They're just like, no, not yet, or blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, so I stopped by and like I saw they were just talking about like collecting, and it wasn't even, I don't even know. I didn't stay very long. I stopped by for 10 or 15 minutes and there wasn't much going on. It was him and Oak and Green Shiz, and it was just normal stream. And I don't know. It almost seems like people want, like, some people out there, they just want, to cause the drama. They want but like, I mean, obviously me and Jake don't see eye to eye. I haven't talked to him since, we made the videos. I did check. He did delete all the videos that he responded to me and all that, but I don't care. Like, he does his own thing. He has his own beliefs. I'm doing my thing. I have my own beliefs. It's just funny. Like, I didn't even know he was going live, and I had like 20 people reach out to me in all different sources telling me about it.
And I've said it before and I'll say it again. In those situations, you just do your best to stay out of it.
TTCGO Radio is going to be your guy. They're all gonna keep you informed every time he makes one statement now.
Dude, it's like, who cares though? I'm like some small guy with like 6,000 followers, and he's some guy with like 100K followers. Like, who cares? Like, if he, first and foremost, if he hears that I just don't trust him as a source, I think his best option would be to just also ignore it. Like, I'm not worth his time. He's not worth my time. Just move on. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe, who knows? Maybe he takes the approach and he makes a video about it. So anyway, I heard from this really small YouTuber who's talking. And he just milks it because he's like, we can get so many views doing this. Like,
I've always said that. Like, if I wanted to do this, why would I not go after someone like PokeRev or like Real Breaking Nate, or like, why wouldn't I go after like if I really wanted to cause drama? Like, I feel like all the things that went down were, just like debates where I got brought on to debate a topic. We kind of at each other's throats because we don't see eye to eye on it. And it became this big thing. It's like, well, here, I thought I was there to debate. If we just want to talk about like the love of the hobby, I can do that too, but I'm not going to go somewhere to debate a topic and then just kind of bow down and say I'm wrong about everything. I'm there to prove my point. And so I never understood that. But like, I think the whole thing started is, and I'm not like innocent, but I feel like when I first started YouTube, right, I was, kind of coming up, and I kind of got on Pokenologist's channel. I went on Jake's channel, and I felt like they might not have been doing this, but this is kind of where all the beef started. I just felt like they were it was kind of an effort to almost kind of delegitimize, like make me seem like illegitimate. Like the advice I was giving was like surface level, didn't understand the hobby deep enough, didn't dive deep enough, didn't understand all the nuances of how collectibles work. And I just feel like there was an effort to kind of be like, oh, well, if you're like Nostalgianomics, modern sealed invest, you guys are like, just getting the hobby brand new. Once you kind of get established and you understand collectibles and the hobby and investing, then you can come to our channels and we'll kind of teach you how to really navigate the markets. And I just had that feeling. That's why I made videos like kind of pushing back. That's why I went on their channels and really debated hard. But it had nothing to do with trying to like be a drama channel. I felt like my channel and my like views were under attack a little bit. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But that's where it all came from. Ever since then, there's no hate. There's no, drama. It is what it is. Like, they're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. Don't have any plans of making any more drama type related videos. So that's where it all stands for anyone out there wondering. You don't need to message me anymore.
I don't know, man. Alex without drama. I mean, is that really Nostalgianomics as a YouTube channel? Like, what the heck, man?
How bad is that?
We need something in your life.
Is my name synonymous with drama now?
Hey, there's definitely.
I'm gonna have to before I get to the editing and the Twitter like you. I'm gonna have to reinvest in a PR firm.
Bro, I'm surprised you're not in Twitter just based on the fact that you would thrive so well on it. Like, the amount of smoke that you would just be throwing at you, dude. You crush it so well on Twitter. It's made for you. No, I'm just kidding.
I guess, man. I guess like I just don't get it. Like, kind of like you were just saying. I don't get why making a statement of opinion becomes this gigantic like firestorm. Like, well, he said this. Okay, well, I think he's wrong. Whoa, you think he's wrong? Like, yeah, like he thinks I'm wrong. What's the big deal? Yeah, but that's him. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. It just certain people get to like, I guess like these seen as elites in this hobby, and their opinions kind of like gold. Like disagreeing with SM Pratt back in the day would have been like sacrilegious. Like, you cannot do that. I just feel that way about some people.
That's the thing. At the end of the day, it's their opinion. As long as I feel like you're not taking personal shots at the individual, right? Like, I can sit here and say, oh, I don't trust him as a source because of his credibility, but I'm not out here saying, I think his voice sounds dumb. Like, it's not like I'm over here like just taking shots for no reason. Like, it's like, hey, it's just a personal preference. I just, I used to watch his content. I don't anymore because I've just seen him wrong a couple of times. Because I remember when he said a year or two ago, we were going to get Shining Legends Elite Trainer Box reprints, and that never came. So,
whoa, dude, chill out, calm down.
Right. Oh my God, this guy.
Hey, what about Hidden Fates? Hidden Fates undervalued right now still? I like Hidden Fates right now.
Like in terms of sealed or singles?
The stained glass bird has, the promo's been moving up. Some of the other cards have been moving up in the set. I mean, it was like the most loved set ever before Evolving Skies came, and it's got overshadowed now. But I mean, I think it's got enough fire in it to kind of get people wanting to come back to it. I mean, honestly, when I announced my box break, it got the second most votes under Cosmic Eclipse for what people wanted to open and wanted to see. So I think it's still got a lot of popularity behind it. I think a lot of people came in to the hobby from Hidden Fates. I've had a couple people, even on my stream before, I've had like Old Card Shop said he came in because to the hobby from Hidden Fates. So yeah, I think it's a great set and can do well in the future. What do you think about it?
Oh, I mean, I definitely think Hidden Fates for the longest time has been drastically undervalued. And it's funny, too, because obviously, we got a video the other day from Danny talking about how Hidden Fates prices are starting to go up finally. And, you're seeing the explosion. But at the end of the day, if you really look at the price points for a lot of the cards, like how it's performed is, okay, let's look at the Shiny Charizard, right? It was selling for, at its low point, $350, and it's currently selling for $387. Okay, so it's went up 10%, which, 10% is a sizable amount. I remember when this card was literally selling for 3 years ago, raw for $700. So, like, for it to be still 50% from its all-time high raw, and it's gone up 10%, and it's now considered a deal, is like kind of crazy to me, right? Like, obviously the Umbreon has been performing extremely well. Like, that one's done still super well, and some of these top performing cards are progressively going up, whether it be 10 to 20%. We're not really seeing any sort of like crazy like, holy crap, this thing's like 5x, right? And if you actually look at some of the lower end cards in the set, like I think one of them I looked at yesterday was the Tapu Lele. This was a card that's actually gone down like 40% in the past year. Or, I mean, let me take a look at some of the other cards, like the Articuno, for example. I mean, it went up like $1 or $2. So it's gone up a little bit, but, there's not like, it's not hyperbolic yet, I guess, is the point that we're talking about. Like, we're seeing some specific cards start to go up in value, but we're not seeing it to the point of where it's being priced out, especially when you look at what the all-time highs were. So I think there's definitely an opportunity to still pick up these cards. I mean, I made multiple videos literally like 6 months to a year ago saying, I think this is the bottom for Hidden Fates. I think if you're going to buy Hidden Fates, I think it's the time to do it. It wouldn't surprise me if within the 6 months to a year, these start to go up in value. And they've started to go up in value, but I still think they're a good deal because we know that we look at what's going on with Sun and Moon singles and Sun and Moon seal product, everyone is starting to get hyped around them. So it's only a matter of time before these cards hit their all-time highs again, honestly.
Dude, it's so funny. So many people are asking about the hat, the financed hat.
Oh,
no, I can't sign it for them. I don't fulfill them. So Stream Elements actually fulfill.
You don't fulfill it? Are you kidding me? Well, it's a shirt. It's not the hat. It's the shirt. That's crazy.
If I held the inventory, it would get out of hand. I don't know, like the right sizes. Though, like I'm not a retail guy. Like I tried to just make them affordable and make a couple dollars off a shirt and whatever.
So you don't ship it. You have someone that you literally hire to fulfill it for you and ship it to the customer.
Yeah. It's a company called Stream Elements, and basically they don't print it to you, order it type thing. It's like a print to demand. And they take care of all that for you, like the print, the packaging, the shipping, and everything like that. But I did make sure like they're all like the highest quality, like Bella Canvas shirts, like they're not cheap t-shirts and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, other than like doing the artwork and picking the the quality and style of shirts, that's pretty much what I did. Alex outsources to India. Nah, it's US. It's US. Oh, geez. Oh my God, I just had like 5 comments all come after I said that. Jeez. I just hurt myself right there, huh? No, guys, I actually I actually, weave the cotton and I make the shirts and then I ship them out all from my home. My wife's out there stringing shirts together as we speak. I promise you.
Have you ever seen I think I've referenced this before. Have you ever seen Dave Chappelle?
Live?
No, like have seen his like videos or his content.
Yeah. I've
Have
never
you
seen
ever
him
seen
live.
Have you ever seen his video where he like it's Show My Crib. It's like a spoof off the TMZ show, and he goes in his crib and he's like, a lot of rappers, they like to, buy a bunch of these high-end sneakers that are super expensive. But for me, I'm not about that life. I have my own sweatshop. And it literally shows him opening like a garage basement, and he's got like a bunch of Asian women in there, like just all creating a bunch of t-shirts for them. And like they're talking about how they want to break. And he said that he was like gonna burn their feet if they try. It was like one of the funniest sketches.
That's hilarious.
I was like, it's so funny.
Hey, do you have your buddy's address? They want me to send a shirt to PTCG Radio for a heads up.
Gosh, let's just move on from that.
Okay.
Too much energy.
Did you have anything you wanted to bring up or talk about while you're on here?
Is there anything I wanted to bring up or talk about while I am on here? There was one thing. I'm trying to see if I can remember it.
And also, did anyone have any questions you want us to hit on? Any serious questions? We're done with the hat or shirt financing. We're done with the PTCGO radio. Not talking anymore on Pokenomics. Real questions.
I know, right? Chappelle is the GOAT. I definitely agree. God, what was the question I was going to ask you? There was one I was trying to think of. What's the giveaway? Well, okay, so that's a good point. I feel like, should I do this now or should I do this on my channel later? Because
man, I can like make me smaller and you larger.
Make me smaller and you larger. Well, the problem is I don't know how I would. Can I like screen share?
Do you have that option on your end? Can you see like present or anything?
I do see present.
Yeah, that's it.
Which share screen? It says sharing screen is the easiest way on 2 monitors.
So, yeah, so just pick the monitor you're wanting to share, and you can share it.
Okay, cool. All right, so then here's what I'm going to do. Is my screen being shared, or how's this working?
I'm not seeing it. Oh, here I have to add it to the stream. So it'll just be like a secondary.
Right, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this is a long time coming, but for those of you guys that don't know, a while ago we did a Steam Siege buyout, and for the longest time I have just been sitting on a lot of the cards. So if you guys don't remember, for those of you that were a part of it, what I basically said is we were going to do a donation pool where for every $5 you donated to be a part of the buyout, I would give you an entry into the whatever it is we bought out, and you would win it, right? So we had, I think, about 12 or 15 people that entered in to the buyout. So I was thinking that we would do 3 people or potentially 5. I was thinking 3. I would just split what everything was between 3 since it's only 15 people. Like you've got a 1 in 5 shot of getting it all, I think seems the most fair. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think I should make it 1 in 5 and split all of it between 5 people? Or how do you think I should go about doing it? I want to get some opinions from people because it's about dang time we did this.
Leave your opinions in the chat. I'm not getting involved in this one. I don't know, man.
I know, right?
I mean, we're giving things away. This is the anti-investing. What are we doing here?
I mean, it's just like I said, it's a long time coming that I've needed to do this for a while. I've literally just been having it sit in like we call it like the blue room is where I do a lot of like my bulk inventorying and sifting, and it's literally just a pile of cards have just been sitting in the corner for the longest time, and I've just been like needing to do this forever. Zaggy says
I actually graded some of those cards. I didn't get any 10s of any of those.
Are you still sitting on a lot of them? Didn't you drop like $500,000 on it too?
No, I think
You
it's like
dropped quite a
it was
bit.
like $300.
I dropped 300 as well. I know
Yeah.
that. I know I dropped $300, but yeah, the people that are gonna win it are the people that entered in a while ago. So I have a list of all the
So
people that entered.
while we're waiting for people to vote, so guys, vote on how many people you want to win, whether it be 3 or 5. I'll jump through these questions people threw. So one person said, real question, how hard should I go into Team Aqua's Kyogre EX? Yeah, those double crisis cards, they are if you guys look at the pop reports, they're a lot lower than like they're as low as like gold stars. Like they're lower than shinings. They're lower than crystals. It's a set that didn't have ETBs. It didn't have booster boxes. It just had blister packs. So it's a really rare set, and those cards are really hard to grade, as all SY cards really are. And so yeah, I think there's huge opportunity in those cards. I've talked about it. I have them. You know what I'm talking about, Eli?
Yeah, no, I know the cards you're talking about. I just think what's the hardest about it is finding one that well, the question is how hard should you go into it? I mean, so yeah, they're super easy or they're super hard to find. The question is like, is it for the purpose of holding them as just singles or grading them, or like, because it's gonna be tough trying to find some graded versions. But Hermit's asking, where's the poll? We should probably throw up a poll. Can you do that on here? Or actually, you can do it on YouTube. You can do it on YouTube.
How?
Literally just go over to YouTube and do it. So if you go to your YouTube studio.
Oh, start poll. All right.
Yeah, and then click start poll and then give options. And then say
what are the options?
3, 5, or 1. That's what we'll do just for fun and see what people say there. But yeah, in terms of the card, I mean, if you really think about like the popularity of the card itself, because it is Kyogre, it is Groudon, it is a unique item because it does have it's a team card, right? And there just wasn't a lot of it around because they were such unique cards on how you acquired them. There's definitely an argument that they could do extremely well long term just based off the scarcity of the cards themselves, regardless of whether your intentions are to buy it and send it in for grading or not. So yeah, I definitely think that they could do well.
I got mine. There's mine. One of each.
Oh, what condition are those in?
9s. I didn't go. The 10s were like thousands of dollars. The 9s were only, the Groudon I got for 105, and the Team Aqua one I think it was like 220 or something. So.
Oh dang, really? How recently did you pick these up?
May, like early May.
Okay, how much are they now? I gotta wonder.
The Groudon's all over the place. Like Z&G's auctions just ended at like 315. Then there was another like buy it now or best offer one in the mid 2s. So it's just kind of all over. I think like mid 2s to 3s, something like that. That's for the Groudon. And I think the Team Aqua Kyogre, there's a couple on the market right now in the mid or high 2s. So I just think they're really cool cards, and the pops are really low, and there's just not a lot that are coming out graded. Those blister packs are already really expensive. So I think they're safer plays, right? When it comes to graded cards you want to hold. Evo Me question: are the new CGC 10s going to be worth more than the old pristines and perfects? Not the old perfects, in my opinion. The old pristines, they have a chance, but no, the perfects are going to be like Beckett pristines, right? What are you thinking? Same?
It's so speculative. It's so hard to know. Honestly, as much as I would like love to give my opinion on it, I honestly don't know, because they've changed so much with the standard. They've changed so much with the label design. There's just too many variables for me to factor in. Like, do people hate the label more than the previous one? Do people think that because the grading standard is shifted, it's going to be better to have the old ones because the condition of the cards are going to be easier to get? Like, in theory, I would say I think the older ones in theory are going to do better, but there's just so many factors at play with it,
I would hold on to your perfects. I mean, that's like they're not really considered black labels, but they're definitely, I think they do better than PSA 10s, don't they?
I mean, here's what I would say. Think about it this way. If you literally just hold on to all your CGC cards right now, like, what's the worst, I guess, that can happen, right? Like,
well, grade your 9.5s. I mean, like, get your 10s, obviously.
Right. But for like the pristine and perfect tens, it's not like they're, I mean, I could be wrong. It's not like they're just going to crash, right? Like, I feel like if anything, the new ones are either going to crash or the new ones are going to go up. And you just kind of sit on the sideline and watch what happens. And if you notice that the cards are starting to go up in value a ton for the new labels, then you send them in. Or if you realize they're going down, then you just don't send them in. You hold on to what you're holding on to, right?
That's how, I mean, that's kind of how I feel. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a PSA guy. Like, I'm PSA through and through. I've talked to multiple people about this. I think we even talked about it before the stream. Like, guys, PSA, as far as like sales wise, they like 20x. They like 20x the amount of slabs that CGC or you know, AGS, BGS, like, you know, pick your poison with the 3-letter grading companies. PSA is crushing them in overall cards graded, in overall sold on the market every month, every year, in overall value when you compare grade to grade. Now, again, perfect black labels a little different, but like, you know, 9.5s to 10s, or even like regular 10s, I'm not sure, but like 9 to 9s, 8 to 8, 7 to 7s, PSA is going to crush them. So it's like, you know, changing the mind of the masses is very hard, and I just don't see it happening anytime soon. So I'm still PSA all the way. But yeah, if you're got CGC cards, you're thinking, I mean, if you got perfects, I'd be fine. Old pristines, take it or leave it. And then 9.5s, make sure you grade them. Steve Witten, are we at the peak for Japan and English for that matter? Peak for English? I think the peak for English was a while ago. We're definitely not at the peak of English. Peak for Japan? No idea.
Well, I guess is the question short-term peak, long-term peak? I mean, there's always context that has to be made of it. I think long-term, we're not even close to the peak because the peak's just going to keep going up over time. In terms of the short-term peak, I mean, I would like to argue that specifically for, you know, vintage, the peak was, you know, end of 2021. And in terms of sealed ultra modern, you know, I think the peak, we still haven't hit it yet, honestly. That might sound crazy to say, but it's like Evolving Skies booster boxes. It's not going up as fast as it was going up, but it's still slowly going up. And so are a lot of the Sword and Shield era cards and Sun and Moon era cards and Sword and Shield era, Sun and Moon era sealed. So until I start to see a lot of this like really fall off where it gets stagnant or goes down, it's hard for me to say we're at the peak, you know?
I mean, I'll give a hot take because I don't mind giving the hot takes. So we just had what did we just have? The first 4 or 6 sets of Sword and Shield go out of rotation for play. So here's how my feeling. Once we finally get past like all the rotation and silver, the whole era is out of rotation. Reprints are basically not coming anymore. All those boxes are going to be $200 a box. All of them. I think the low is going to be 200 even for the worst sets, and then they're going to range up to whatever Evolving Skies gets to. But I mean, even sets like Vivid Voltage, even sets like, you know, obviously Darkness Blaze already on the move, Battle Styles, they're going to be $200 boxes once they all get out of rotation and reprints. The only thing holding down a lot of those sets right now, such as Silver Tempest, Lost Origin, Evolving Skies, Brilliant Stars, is that threat of reprints. That is the only thing holding those sets back from absolutely exploding. That's my opinion.
That's literally what we saw with Evolving when they had a small reprint of Evolving and it went from 200 all the way down to like as low as 125, 130. As soon as people had the sentiment that this was it and potentially there's going to be no more, it just skyrocketed up within like 3 to 4 months to 400. Like, it was insane how quickly it happened too.
It happens quick. I mean, even the stock market these days, like everything happens quick. I mean, I talked about it the last stream I was on. Like 1 minute Carvana's going bankrupt, the next minute it's hitting $30 a share almost. It's just like, you know, $5 a share or $30 a share in a matter of a couple months. That's kind of how Pokemon moves. It's just 1 minute, you know, it's like stagnant. Oh, it's done moving. And then the next minute you look a month later and it's like, oh, it's up 40%. How'd that happen? You know?
All right. So I think, because I got to wrap things up in the next couple of minutes because I have an important meeting at 3. So I think
45% say 5, Eli.
Yep, I think we wrap it up here with this poll of 5 people. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull over the wheel.
Yes, we got a wheel.
We've got a wheel, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'm going to make a notepad so that I have it written down who the 5 people are. So how it works is, like I said, every $5 got you an entry. So there's just a bunch of multiple different entries because there was like, a ton of people. And if your name gets pulled once, I think I shouldn't allow double entries just to make it fun. Because I swear to God, Northwoods donated like $200-300. So if I just hit his name like 3 times, it's just not going to be fun. So, all right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna spin the wheel, baby.
Yes.
See who the first person.
I always wanted to bring Whatnot to my YouTube channel.
Alrighty, all right. First person up, Elias. I think that's I'm correct. I think that's Shiny Avocado. So shout out to him. We will remove all instances of him. Moving on to the next.
So, hey, hold on. What do they win?
They win a split of the share of all of the. That's a great question to ask.
There we go, Northwoods. He got himself one.
Hey, there it is. Who would have guessed it? Northwoods got it. So I bought multiple copies of like a ton of different Steam Siege cards. So I'm gonna split them up into 5 different pools of like just one variation or multiple variations. Just split it amongst the top 5 people. So you're going to be getting a lot of Steam Siege cards. You guys will soon do these. So shout out to Northwoods if he's here watching this. He's going to be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And so there's Northwoods for that. Then moving on to the next person, see who is going to be the winner. Oh, hey, one of our own mods, Koga. Shout out to Koga on this one. He's one of the mods from our channel. So shout out to him. We got 2 more, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can get it. The names are starting to dwindle. So there's the opportunity just gets higher and higher at this point. And there's one last one for Jonathan. So now we're going to round it out for the last couple of people. Once again, I know this is a long time coming. Thank you guys all so much for those who participated.
I see a lot of Joseph on there.
I know. Joseph had a lot of entries.
Yeah,
so
he deserved one. All right, good. All right.
Joseph deserved one. I know. You would hope he'd get it. I swear. All right. Shout out to Joseph. So the names of the 5 people that won it, obviously, reach out to me via Discord. You guys know how it is. Links down in the description below any of my videos. So congratulations to you 5 people. Message me about it, and I'll make sure to ship out your guys' Steam Siege buyout cards.
Retro says failed buyout becomes a tax write-off. God bless the hobby.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You get
hey,
it.
before you head out, Pokemon Jim here asked this question, and since you have a store now, do you have like organized play? So like, all this talk about Pokemon talk. No one's talking about the NAIC, the what is North American International? What's it called? North American International Championships for Pokemon. Do you follow any of the play now that you have a store, or you kind of still out?
I don't follow the national play. I just follow how things are performing at the store. But I mean, as far as it goes, I've talked to a couple of the players and they follow literally none of the stuff that we follow. They look at just whatever the competitive cards are and they just buy them. That's it, right? Like a lot of them make arguments saying that the cards right now in competitive play are drastically undervalued, which is funny to think because they look at how it was back in the day compared to like the Roaring Skies era, and they look at how it is now and they're like, yeah, this stuff is so more readily available. It's something that for them, they're like, I think it's in a great spot right now for being able to afford decks, especially when you compare it to like Magic the Gathering and how expensive some of these cards are. You guys out here are trolling now saying it's rigged.
Hey, so do you here's another couple other questions for you before you get out of here. Do you think this is the last Brilliant Stars reprint wave? And then Justin Durr also said, Danny Fansump said he was getting a small Evolving Skies reprint, although everything I've been opening lately has the new code cards that don't match the hit. I think they're already printing it. Do you know anything about Brilliant Stars or Evolving Skies as far as reprints?
So Brilliant Stars, I think that until we know when the actual rotation date's going to be, whether it be at the end of August/September when Worlds ends, or whether it's going to be early next year on the first set, kind of like what we did this year, it's hard to know, but I think it's less likely that we're going to get a Brilliant reprint. As for Evolving Skies, haven't heard anything about it. He said ES small print. He didn't specify if it was ETBs or booster boxes. Obviously, I know that there's been a lot of rumors going around that there was ETB reprints. It wasn't a reprint. It was a small resupply. You realistically are not going to be able to get more than like a case or two per storefront, which, who knows, that could drop the price. But I just want people to know it wasn't a reprint. It was a small resupply. So unless I start getting dumped with a ton of it, it's hard for me to justify it, especially considering how much typically, I mean,
And what was that? That was what product was it?
Well, I have no clue. I was saying if we're talking about the ETB specifically, since that's the one that's been brought up the most, because I think it was Paladin Cards that brought it up first on Twitter, and then obviously there was a couple other people that kind of like retweeted it, and then TCG Deals, shout out to him. He was someone who also reached out to a couple of sources and confirmed it, as well as what I've talked to my reps about, and said that it doesn't look like it's a reprint. It looks like it's just a resupply. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past, right? I was told Brilliant was going to be a just a resupply. There's no reprint coming, and all of a sudden I got told by my rep, you're gonna be able to purchase it in multiple cases worth. And I was like, that's so exciting. And then he's like, yeah, but you also have to buy some battle academies if you want them. I'm like, that just became less exciting. So, they're gonna get you if they're gonna try and do it. But
well, guys, Eli's busy, man. He's got to go. I will. Eli's YouTube channel's in the top of the description. You can find him there. I'll go ahead and post those names at the top of the description as well for anyone that it comes looking for him. I'll make sure all those are posted. I'm sure he'll do the same. Dude, really appreciate you coming on the channel. I know you're busy running a lot of stuff right now. What do you want to leave us with? What words of wisdom are we going to end this with?
This is not financial. I want to thank you so much for having me on the stream. It's definitely been an absolute blast as per usual. Happy birthday to you, obviously belated. So I always have fun with you when you're on when you're on my channel, and it's always a blast when you have me on. So as per usual, I'd love to do this more in the future, and potentially, as we've discussed, maybe a podcast in the near future, as we may tease. But as far as it goes, just can't thank you enough for everything and everyone who's stopped by to watch the stream.
Oh man, just throwing that out there, that's going to cause some buzz. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
guys, right. Thanks so much for coming out. Congrats to the winners on the giveaway, and be back here another one of these soon. We're out.